Just a week after the sun in the south of France, the Blancpain GT Series moves to Germany and the Nurburgring. It's our third Sprint Cup event of the year, with action guaranteed. Last time out, the Sprint Cup was on the Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch, a full field pouring its way through paddock on lap 1. There was plenty of action all the way through the field. Mercedes taking on Bentley, for example, on home soil, but Maxime Soulet went round the outside of Clement Schmidt to gain the place. Frédéric Verviche in the Audi got himself in strife coming through Sterling's, and that caused cars to scatter left and right. Takaboshi in the Nissan managed to dive bomb the opposition. He gained 2 places going down towards Hawthorns. Soulet's next target was Martin Stockinger in the Audi. Side by side they ran over the timing line, the Bentley having the inside for paddock and taking the place. Nicky Melnhoff was battling with Jeroen Bleekemolen. Bleekemolen, the Dutchman in the Lamborghini, making his way through on the inside. At pit stop time, the race order became shuffled as the WRT team cycled its cars through, determined to try to get them back out ahead of the opposition. Christopher Mies in the Audi picked up the race lead, and he got himself out ahead of both Mercedes and Bentley, the number 8 Bentley being well and truly mugged on the pit stops. It set WRT up for a great finish, except it then lost 2 of its cars as Jimenez and Michael Meadows collided. That brought out the safety car. Everybody bunched up, and Maxime Soulet looked concerned. On the restart, it was Christopher Mies leading the Jules Simkowiak, Bernd Schneider, Mercedes, with in third spot the Bentley of Maxime Soulet and Andy Soucek. And that was the way it would run all the way to the checkered flag. The cars had to contend with traffic, and the 2 race leading cars were nose to tail, but there was nothing the Mercedes could do. This was going to be an Audi day, as up towards the checkered flag came Christopher Mies to score victory for him and for Enzo Ede. This weekend at the Nurburgring, we hook up with the German Truck Grand Prix. That means a different kind of rubber on the ground and the very short version of the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit. And it's somewhere that Bentley is hoping for better fortunes than last week in the Endurance Cup race at Paul Ricard. Andy Soucek is after a win.
We've already done 2 sprint races, in Misano where we won and in Brands Hatch where we finished 3rd. So apparently the car does well in sprint as well. We don't have to forget that the champion at the moment is the Bentley from last year. So I believe that the car will be fine. There is no reason why we shouldn't think so. It's true that Nürburgring with this short track is a bit different, the layout, to the one we were doing in Endurance. And that doesn't benefit us, but I think we'll be right up there again.
On this multi-million euro grid, another mouth-watering car is the Lamborghini Huracan. The GRT Grasser Racing team is here as ever, with 2 of its cars and 2 very strong driver lineups, and these could well be cars that are topping the podium come the end of each of the 2 races, the qualifying and the main. Lukas Stolz is one of the drivers in number 19. He knows the circuit well, and he's optimistic of a good result.
I raced Blancpain Sprint in 2013, so I'm used to the Sprint series. I'm now with Lamborghini, which is a really nice brand. I really enjoy the driving of the Lamborghini. I think the Nürburgring fits quite well to the car. We have some tight corners and also some fast corners, so I think we're going to be competitive this weekend.
You could argue that against some of the opposition, the Nissan is getting a bit long in the tooth, but the 2 cars remain competitive nonetheless, and Alex Bunker behind the wheel of 23 is looking forward to a good result.
Yeah, we're feeling good. In practice today it could have gone a bit better, I'll be honest, but we couldn't seem to get the brand new tyre to work. Yeah, it's a new configuration of circuit for me, but I know sort of 9 out of the 10 corners anyway, so yeah, no, it should be a good weekend for us.
Second generation racer Sebastian Asch is the reigning German GT champion. This weekend he splits away from his regular Mercedes to drive a Porsche, and he's well prepared for a circuit around which he has done many a mile in his successful racing career.
We will be well prepared for this weekend here at Nürburgring, and yeah, we have tested the car this week, and I think here at Nürburgring we want to go on the top 10.
McLaren comes to the Nürburgring on a roll. 2 Endurance Cup victories, and the Garage 59 car in the hands of Alvaro Parent is going to be another key front runner this weekend. Is the McLaren the ideal car for the short version of the Nürburgring? We'll find out, but Parent and co-driver Rob Bell certainly have a great chance of victory here this weekend.
The first 2 rounds of the sprint, we came 4th in both main races at Misano and at Brands. So we're looking to fight for the podium. That's our target. That's how well I think the car is at the moment. We've got to be sharp on the pit stops. We've got to be sharp, in setup work. That's what we've been doing today. You always have to, be optimistic and aim very high and fight for it. So to get the best out of it. That's what it's looking like.
The new Mercedes AMG GT3 dominated the 24-hour race here 2 months ago on the full Nordschleife. This is a very different proposition altogether. Are the cars going to be quick enough under the balance of performance to score victories in 1-hour races? Ben Schneider could drive this place with his eyes shut. What does he think his chances are this weekend?
The expectation is hopefully to get a good qualifying, because if we are not in top 10 in qualifying, it will be very hard to collect points. And this is our main target, but that means in the morning, this first sessions, we're going to work on the qualifying setup to find a good balance. And if we are in top 10, I think we have a good chance to finish in top 5, because the car is very strong over the race distance. But I think we are not strong enough at the moment to fight for a win.
The new BMW M6 has looked better in the Sprint Cup than in the Endurance Cup. And Philipp Eng, who's a double Carrera Cup Deutschland champion, new to full-time GT racing this year, comes to the Nurburgring with expectations high. This, again, could well be a car to beat.
Always feeling positive coming to a race weekend. I think we can have a good shot here. We were not starting very well in Misano, which is a similar kind of track, but that in the end, in the races, it turned out to be quite good. And I hope to do a podium here together with my teammate Alex Sims.
And what about Ferrari? No GT grid is complete without the prancing horse. The Rinaldi racing car is always one that's at the pointy end of the grid, and Norbert Siedler and Marco Seefried come to Nürburgring, adding their weight to the list of possible winners.
It's really an honor, to be in such a grid also with the other cars, but especially with the Ferrari up here. I like very much coming always to the Nürburgring. It's like returning from the 24 hours, which was my previous race. And okay, we do the small circuit. We have different layouts up here. That's the one, we call it the sprint version. It's challenging of terms like you have to be really spot on. Otherwise, it will be, I think, a very, very competitive qualifying. That will be the key factor for the race.
So the sun is shining, there are still a few grey clouds above, there's a threat of rain, and it's been threatening since about 9 o'clock this morning, but the scene is set with this huge grid. We've got 37 cars ready to go here on, as you've been hearing, the sprint version of the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, which means instead of going all the way down to the bottom of the hill, there's the little hairpin, the cut through, that loops them back round to the end of the lap. So let's have a look at the grid for this qualifying race. Alvaro Parent is the man who will start on pole position. Christopher Mies lining up alongside it. Max Buch is on row 2 with Laurens Vanthoor for company. The third row is where you find Philippe Salaquada alongside René Rast, then Marcus Winkelhock and Mirko Bortolotti for Audi and Lamborghini respectively. Franck Pereira is alongside Philipp Eng. Next on the grid, Dries Vanthoor and Patrick Niederhauser in the Lamborghini. 13th on the grid is the car in the hands of Christopher Hasse, Marco Seefried Ferrari lining up alongside. 15th is where you find Giacomo Piccini with the quickest of the Ferraris, and Maxime Soulet with work to do in Bentley number 8. Lucas Stolz will start in number 19, and Jeroen Mull, the quick Dutch driver, in number 100, ahead of Com Ledegaard, and then Felix Rosenqvist, last year's Macau Grand Prix winner and FIA Formula 3 champion. Michael Meadows and Maxime Martin are 2 to watch on the 11th row. Row 12 is the Jimenez Audi and Ben Schneider in 86 Mercedes. Then Stefan Rossina, who had a lap time disallowed, and Stephen Kane a long way back on the grid, 26th, ahead of Clement Schmidt, and then Marcus Pommer, Formula 3 racer. 29th is where you find Alex Buncombe, the Nissan hating this place because it doesn't like start-stop circuits. Morgan Moulin-Trafort is alongside. Raffaele Giammaria and Stefan Lemaire make an all-Ferrari at 16th row, ahead of Sean Walkinshaw and Jean-Philippe Belloc, Nissan and Mercedes respectively. Then you have Christian Hook starting alongside Sebastian Ash, that car having lost its Q1 times, and likewise Edward Sandstrom lost his times at the back. The Porsche lost its times for crossing the timing line under the checkered flag twice. Sandstrom's car lost its times because they had the wrong driver in the wrong session, which is a bit of a schoolboy glitch. So, an hour of racing, the qualifying race here for the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup at the Nurburgring. The front of the grid is McLaren and Audi. Parent in the McLaren, Christopher Mies in the Audi, and the light go green. We're racing, and a good start is made by Parent as they accelerate down towards the Mercedes arena. He hugs the inside line, trying to make sure that Mercedes and Audi and Lamborghini can't gang up on him, but has he got the right line going into the arena? Hard on the brakes, round the outside line, tries there to others contact as the Vanthoor Audi gets turned around, so Laurens Vanthoor is off facing the wrong way. Two through the gravel, one of the ISR Audis plus Lamborghini, but disaster for number one at the first corner, John.
Well, clean break for Alvaro Parent, but it was the Audis, the WRT Audis ganging up, trying to get down the inside, as did the Mercedes-Benz. Dominic Brook, but nobody managed to eclipse the pace of the McLaren down into turn one, and it's going to be about, which is what the Garage 59 team have done. They've got their tyre temperatures, pressures absolutely perfect, and that's going to work to their advantage.
So Laurens Vanthoor, number one, turned around. He was on the outside of Christopher Mies, contact from behind, and that has really interrupted the Audi's race. So that car's got a long hour ahead of it, trying to get back into the mix. Up the inside in 333 Ferrari there, trying to gain track position, is the Marco Seefried Ferrari. Is he going to be able to go through? Yes, I think he's just about scrabbled by, but then he gets hung out on the outside line as they work their way up towards the Ad Van Bergen for the first time. There with damage, the Audi sheds bodywork, limping round. It's going to be compromised. That is number two. That's the Meadows Leonard car. Michael Meadows at the wheel.
Yes, there was a secondary contact on the exit of turn one. We didn't quite catch it, and one of the BMWs, the row, well, it was about to go into the pit lane, decided against it. So there's been contact at different people driving through what is not the normal chicane to come back into the pit lane. One of those is the Audi of Laurens Vanthoor, I believe. That's the Michael Meadows car,
yeah.
The number two car coming in.
So getting out of people's way, really.
Yes, but messy in turn one. Normally a pinch point on the opening lap, and certainly lived up to expectations.
So Vanthoor has gone across the line 30th. Philip Salaquada was delayed. He's 31st. And Mirko Bortolotti was another driver involved. He has not yet come through, and he will do so, I think, into the pit lane if he gets that far at all. Now, there's going to be a drive-through penalty for Philip Salaquada if he gets out of his pit stop, and also for Marcus Winkelhock, who is in 10th place for jumping the start. So Winkelhock 10th is the significant one. Drive-through penalty for a jump start.
Well, that's their race effectively over, because by the time they make the entry to the pit lane, get through the long pit lane here at Nurburgring, but back to the race for the lead. Look, you can see the gap. It said half a second when they came across the line. In effect, it couldn't be any closer. The trouble that the Mies has got is the McLaren right now works very well indeed.
Now, Marcus Winkelhock has served his drive-through, so he's fallen down the order in number 6 Audi, but Franck Pereira, who is in 4th place, number 74, the white Audi, he is now doing sector times better than the 3 leading cars. So he is closing on Rast, who was closing on the top 2. This battle you're looking at, though, is 6th and 7th, and Vanthoor is staying on the tail of Philippe Eng, isn't he, as they work their way now up towards the chicane. Is he close enough? Not really.
No, and I mean, this is quite simply Philippe Eng doing what he needs to do in the BMW, but he is now creating a train of cars behind Dries Vanthoor, Maxime Soulet. No doubt Soulet, you can see the lights. I mean, not just flashing, they're just trying to burn a hole in the rear of the Audi to try and get the information through. The gap coming across the start-finish line reduced marginally, so Christopher Mies has taken a couple of tenths of a second out of the gap between first and second. René Rast within a second or third of that second place, and it's Franck Pereira.
Now this is Vanthoor D under attack. Dries Vanthoor having to defend going into the Mercedes arena into turn one because he's got Maxime Soulet right up behind him. And of course, now that he's defending, Vanthoor's falling away a little bit for the BMW. Way wide there goes Maxime Soulet. Rides the curb, kicks up the dust on the outside of the road. He's also dropped back a little bit. Andy Soucek there nearest the camera watching on as the race leaders head towards the chicane. Dries Vanthoor dives up the inside. Has he done it? He has, but he goes straight on. He goes over the grass, one up and one down. And the danger is he gets mugged now by an opportunistic Soulet who tries to find the inside line. Dries Vanthoor defends. Soulet on the outside. Can he get the switchback? Can he duck up the inside coming out of the corner? They're onto the pit straight now. It is the Audi ahead, but the momentum is claimed by the Bentley. Absolutely nose to tail. Vanthoor starts to defend. They touch, I think, going over the line. Soulet still pushing, still pushing, still pushing. Does he dive up the inside? No, Vanthoor claims the line. But again, can the Bentley get the switchback? If the Audi goes deep into the corner when it gets a tap in the tail, hurry up, says Soulet. Dries Vanthoor hangs on to it.
The problem is that Dries Vanthoor had to make more than one manoeuvre and look directly behind McLaren on the gearbox of the Bentley. So that was a strong opportunity for Maxime Soulet. Dries Vanthoor did everything he knew to do.
A great fight raging on, 6th and 7th. And Dries Vanthoor in the middle of all of this, trying to attack and defend at the same time. belying his lack of experience in GT racing, because he's hanging on in there. Philipp Eng, who has stepped into GT racing this year. He did have a season in the German Championship, but into what you might call top-line racing after dominating Porsches for the last couple of years. Really under attack. Now, this is where Vanthor made the move a few laps ago, but ran onto the grass and lost the place again. He has got Maxime Soulet all over the back of him as the leaders come over the timing line. The leading quartet through. Then you've got the rather lonely Piccini 5th. What about 6th? It's still the same order, but if Soulet's got a good run, he might have a go at turn 1.
Yeah, it looked like Maxime Soulet was closer than he'd ever been, and now right under the rear wing, pulls out. The straight line speed of the Audi is just probably going to keep him side by side, but Soulet's going to go the long way around. He can afford to brake a little bit later, but Dries van Thor late in the brakes. Now there's the undercut. Can Soulet get the advantage, get the drive on the Bentley that little bit earlier as the battle goes on again? Philipp Eng, I don't know whether he's watching what's going on ahead or watching what's going on behind, but he must certainly be enjoying the battle, probably wanting to keep his eye off the mirror, focused on what he's doing. There is the BMW, Dries van Thor, attached to him, almost like an anchor hook into the back of the BMW. And Maxime Soulet, but looks, the second BMW's found a way around the Audi. That's coming off turn 13 quicker than anybody else. The Audi is coming in, and the BMW, all three coming in. So it's going to be a battle once again in the pit lane, the BMW, the Audi and the Bentley.
Okay, so here they come. Nose to tail in the pit lane. Look, Soulet almost into the back of Dries van Thor. More and more people still pushing hard as they come into the pit lane until they get to the white line. Then they slow right down, everyone bunching up as they head into the pits. So the race leaders, once more, work their way up through the Vidal chicane, the Vidal S, and then on towards the short straight down to the Ad Van Bogen. Speed building at this point all the time. Drop downhill, turn through the right-hander, climb uphill towards the chicane. Pit window remains open, of course, as the race order is jumbled through this period, but the leading quartet, no change. Parent fending off Christopher Mies, who is still staring at the back of the race-leading McLaren. In it comes now. So into the pit lane comes Alvaro Parent. Now we need to see, after the stops have all cycled through, where he is going to rejoin. In comes Alvaro Parent to give way to Rob Bell. Change 4 tyres. Rob stands by. British driver ready to clamber on board. As out on track. There, Dries van Thor's car up ahead of Bentley and the BMW. So the pit stops have given us a shuffle. So Dries van Thor has given way to Nico Müller, winner in the DTM at the Nurburgring last week. The Audi is ahead now of not only Alexander Sims, but he has in turn also been jumped by Andy Soucek.
Yes, and for Soucek, that's one relief because he doesn't have to deal with the Bentley, but the BMW's got good pace now again on fresh tyres. So Andy Soucek has got to think about what's going on behind. There was the race-leading car, Rob Bell behind the wheel, takes back to the racetrack, so let's wait for one more lap to see this whole thing recycled. Still showing Christopher Mies the last lap through, but where will the race leader, currently Christopher Mies, make his pit stop? And René Rast dives into the pit lane, as does Frank Pereira. So the pace of the McLaren with fresh rubber, new driver behind the wheel, not maybe sufficient, because WRT pit stops, we know, are amongst the best, if not the best, in the pit lane. So this is going to be a very close call between the Audis going into the pit lane and leaving at the point when the number 1, or the McLaren that was leading, the 58 McLaren, comes down pit straight.
WRT ready.
And just Christopher Mies' last lap was within a tenth of a second of his previous fastest lap, but at this stage a quick lap, 129.2, so that's a hard run from Christopher Mies before he hands over to Enzoid, as we see the McLaren Rob Bell behind the wheel coming up to go on, complete his 22nd lap. This lap needs to be quicker just to give them that little bit of guarantee that René Rast in the pits. So the McLaren's coming down as Rast leaves the pit lane. There's the McLaren coming down pit straight.
But hasn't Stevens already been jumped by Stockinger in the ISR car? Because that's a change. The white Audi comes out ahead of the black one, and McLaren is going to be ahead of Stevens. So Bell is ahead of Stevens, but it looks as though the ISR car has managed to jump both of them on a very swift stop. The race leader is in the pits, so Christopher Mies is in to give way to Enzo Ede. There is the WRT pit box, ready to receive the car. Down the pit road it comes. The Belgian driver Enzo Ede ready to get on board, as stopping on his marks is Christopher Mies.
Well, certainly Enzo Ede did a very strong job in Brands Hatch when Christopher Mies took over the car to win the race, and for Enzo Ede, who is a gentleman driver, semi-professional, very competent, but at the level that Christopher Mies and others in the WRT team is not in the top rank. he's going to be asked to deliver here again at Nurburgring.
And this could be the lead battle in a moment, because you've got Audi and McLaren together. Back down the pit lane goes Enzo Ede, the race leaders, or second and third as they're about to become, a bearing down on him. But look at that lead that has been worked out by Christopher Mies to give way to Ede. Mega.
Rob Bell coming up alongside the Audi coming into turn one. He's not really sufficiently far alongside of the stage to try and muscle his way around. He's going to try and do it on the outside, but he needs to be careful he doesn't get run wide. Well, tough racing right now. Stockinger hanging in there, not leaving anything to Rob Bell whatsoever.
So Enzo Ede leads, Marlon Stockinger second, Rob Bell third, and a big slide from Stockinger, easy peasy lemon squeezy. That's one place, Kate.
Yeah, I mean, just the back end of the Audi just let go so quickly. Rob Bell said, oh wow, I'll take that, I don't need another invitation. Now it gives Rob Bell the opportunity to focus on Enzo Ede, who's probably got about 3 or so seconds advantage, might be even more than that, just looking as they come through 4A up into turn 11.
And that is number 59, the second McLaren. It's the Martin Plowman car that has come to grief out of turn 4, just leaving the Mercedes arena. 59 has pulled off the other car, still chasing in second place, and the gap is down to 7.8 seconds. It's another half a second pullback.
2, 1, full course yellow now.
Full course yellow is called by Alain Adam, the race director. Everybody has to slow. If you don't, then there'll be a penalty, because they can see from your speed and your lap time, the delta time, whether people have gone at the required speed. It is so that car can be moved. So we don't have a safety car. They don't bunch up. The gaps should remain. If they don't, someone's either gone too slowly or someone behind has gone too quickly.
2, 1, green flag.
Green flag is waved, so we're back racing. Everybody just floors the throttle, and away we go again.
So it'll be the number 1 Audi trying to find its way around the outside. It'll be interesting to see why that gap, which had been down to 6.6 seconds, ends up being 8.5. Will Stevens all over the back, dives down the inside, takes that third position away. He's worked hard to get it. He was in track position. Marlon Stockinger sort of imagined that Will Stevens was going to vanish. It was not going to happen. That was a good pass, well judged. And René Rast, he likes that. I've got a teammate who I can work with. He's done a good job.
So now it is just over 2 seconds between the top two. It is game on between Enzo Ede and Rob Bell as the cars turn out of the right-hander at turn 4. And Ede, dare one say, looks a bit more ragged now. He knows Rob Bell's coming. 2 corners on that lap. We've seen dust settling on exit.
And trouble for the Audi number 5. And what is that all about? Just simply going off track. That's done at the exit of 4A. No,
turn 1.
Turn 1, indeed it is.
Yeah, Nikolai Moller-Madsen, the driver, who was in 19th place. He's come out again, but he's brought gravel onto the road. This is a replay of 5th place, which was Andy Soucek, and is now Nico Müller, and that's how, up the inside.
Yeah, good pass. I mean, Andy Soucek kind of said, look, I've got no more to give, I can't defend.
Through the Mercedes arena, you're riding with Rob Bell in the McLaren. Enzo Ede ahead, almost within touching distance now. But even if Rob Bell catches and he runs a bit deep at 3, where's he going to make the move? Closing all the time. He stays right on the back of Ede now. Can he get the run coming out of turn 4 down to the hairpin? He pulls to the inside line, trying to unsettle Enzo Ede, trying to make him make a mistake. Is it going to happen as they work through? And Ede goes wide up the inside, tries to go Rob Bell, but he doesn't get the drive out of the corner. But he's right there, right on the tail of the Audi. Enzo Ede now has to go defensive, stick out his elbows and try and keep the McLaren behind him. Rob Bell looks up the inside and he can't do it. Through the right-hander, together they run up the curb. Enzo Ede leading the way, 1 more lap. There should be time for at the end of this. And again, the Audi seems to have good straight line speed, because he just gaps the McLaren ever so slightly coming up towards the chicane, but under braking. Up the curb, Rob Bell closes the gap down once more. Sector 1, he took 4 tenths out. Sector 2, he lost a tenth, but he has a cheeky look up the inside at turn 17 and he can't find a way through there. He's got to get a good run, Rob Bell, out of turn 17 as they come now up towards the timing line. There is just over a minute left. So this will be the last lap of the race as through they go, nose to tail. Is this going to be where Rob Bell makes the challenge? Down towards turn 1, he thinks about it, he moves to the inside line. Enzo Ede defends, he covers the move at turn 1. Through the debris, they both run and it gets scattered aside. Ede hangs on to the advantage. Rob Bell right up behind as they work their way through the Mercedes arena. He's going to leave it late if he doesn't make the move up at turn 3 or 4, because then he's running out of options. Through the left at turn 3, Rob ideally wants a good exit on this next corner and try and squirt up the inside into the hairpin. Is it going to happen? Enzo Eid runs wide, so does Rob Bell, using all of the available width of the road. Now, this is Audi territory. This is where the Audi historically is able to just extend the margin a little bit. The checkered flag is going to be made ready into the chicane for the last time, and unless Rob Bell can be a real hero coming through the last corner, it looks as though Enzo Eid might be able to hang on in there. Here comes Rob Bell up the curb. He makes a move to the inside. Enzo Eid repels him. Of course, the finish line is further back towards the exit of the corner than the start line down the pit straight, so Enzo Eid has got less distance to do, and he's going to score a race win because the checkered flag is waved. Enzo Eid wins by 0.3 of a second from Rob Bell in the McLaren. What a great drive by Enzo Eid to repel the challenge that Rob Bell put on him. Alvaro Parent so near and yet so far, but Eid it is who wins for himself and Christopher Mies. Rob Bell and Alvaro Parent second, and third Will Stevens and René Rast. And Enzo Eid deserves great credit for that. He had one of the top GT drivers in the world breathing down his neck, and it didn't seem to faze him. So, number 33 Audi, the winning car, and a replay of more dramas towards the end of the race. The number 19 Lamborghini being given a fairly rude tap. That was Michele Beretta. Beretta becoming a revolver because he was assaulted by Tristan Vautier. The result of the qualifying race, a win for Audi. Christopher Mies and Enzo Eid, the drivers. McLaren, 0.3 of a second back. Alvaro Parent and Rob Bell behind the wheel. René Rast and Will Stevens, Audi takes third. Audi fourth, Marlon Stockinger and Franck Pereira ahead of the Audi of Nico Müller and Dries Van Thorp. Then Andy Soucek and Maxime Soulet's Bentley sixth. BMW seventh, Alexander Sims and Philipp Eng. The best Mercedes eighth, Jules Simkowiak and Ben Schneider. Ninth, Steph Dusseldorp and Maxime Martin's BMW. 10th, Dominic Baumann and Maximilian Buch's Mercedes ahead of the Kane Avril Bentley and the Siedler Siegfried Ferrari in 12th. Lamborghini in 13th place, the Attempto racing car number 101 of Daniel Zampieri and Patrick Niederhauser. In 14th place, the Audi of Baptista and Jimenez. Then Mercedes of Jafar and Schmidt, with Mercedes of Vautier and Rosenqvist ahead of the spun Lamborghini, Beretta and Stoltz. And Nissan 18th, Takeboshi and Buncombe. Really frustrated with that, as you see the rest of the top 24 at the end of a very lively qualifying race.
Christopher Mies, can you believe that you won this race? Because Enzo under pressure all the way.
I think Enzo is the man of the race. I mean, to hold back a McLaren factory driver for such a long time and doing such a good lap time, our second win in a row, it's just fantastic. You know, came here as championship leader. Now we extended the championship lead thanks to this guy. Really, really good job. Just proud of him.
Well, Enzo, you were given a big task because you knew the McLaren was always coming, but you didn't make any mistake. Like, you kicked up a bit of dust in a couple of corners, but you did a wonderful job.
Yeah, it was for sure the last few laps. It was really close to me. It was a nice battle, you know, and at the end we brought it back in first position, so better than that you could not expect. My mate here is also did P3 in qualifying, so then he was really quick, and we came out in P1 and after the first after the driver change, and you just kept it there. So like he said, second win in a row feels great, but you know, as we do, it's tomorrow the biggest point.
Well done, Enzo. Well done, Christopher. Fantastic drive. Thank you.
Let's hear from the vanquished Rob Bell and Alvaro Parent.
Alvaro, while you're getting undressed, I'm going to talk to Rob. Rob, you lost time in the pit lane, basically. You fought to get that gap up from 10 second, whatever, to nothing. But at the end of the day, you just ran out of time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we were catching the leader, but to be fair, he put the car in the right places in the last couple of laps, so he did a good job. Who knows? One more lap, who knows? But, you know, we'll be fighting from the front row tomorrow, which will be great. McLaren was good today. We just need to sharpen up, as you say, in the pits. And, you know, that's just hard work and a bit more practice, I think.
Alvaro, you led the race from the start. We thought you were going to pull away from the Audis, but suddenly they came back at you and they gave you a hard time.
Oh yeah, definitely. We at the beginning we were looking very, very strong, and that it was going to be a possibility to pull away a little bit. But as degradation happened with the tires, it wasn't possible to pull any gap. But we maintained, you know. It was a race. It was everyone pushing very hard. Some oil on the track, very tricky at the beginning, as you saw. Probably some P2 spinning and P4 spinning also first lap, so that was quite tricky. And then yeah, that's we'll work a bit more in the stops there, and we'll keep fighting and pushing, isn't it, Ron?
Well, front row tomorrow doesn't get much better.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And they're the trophies to the race winners, to Christopher Mies and to Enzo Ede, winners of the qualifying race here at the Nurburgring. So get ready for action, because the main race is going to be getting underway shortly here at the Nurburgring. About an hour ago we had some rain, the track is just about dry once more, and it's a very jumbled grid. We had a great race yesterday, expect more of the same. John Watson and David Addison with you, and it's going to be another great fight between Audi and McLaren. Certainly to begin with, because those are the two cars that lock out the front row of the grid. 1 hour of racing, mandatory pit stop for a driver change and 4 new tyres. The weather is improving, the road is drying, and one of the cars that's looking forward for a good result, the Bentley of Maxime Soulet. Let's go to the grid and join John Watson.
Maxime, yesterday the track didn't do the number 8 Bentley any great favours. Any reason to think it's going to be a bit better this afternoon?
We will see. I mean, we didn't do such a bad job starting from P17 to P6. Let's see what we can do today. I mean, we found a little bit of pace on the warm-up, and let's see where we end up.
Now, track conditions are dry, but looking towards turn 1, there's cloud rolling in. Do you think it's going to stay dry?
I hope it's staying dry. I mean, Andy just told me turn 3 and 4, it's still wet and very tricky, so we'll see. Just keep out of trouble and see where we end up.
Well, you never know, I might catch up with you on the podium.
Maybe. Hope so.
So yesterday it was, as you saw, a great battle towards the end between Audi and McLaren. Audi's numerically the strongest brand across the top 6. The Bentley you've just been hearing from Maxime Soulet from was 6th, 7th BMW, and 8th was the best of the Mercedes yesterday, the Bernd Schneider and Jules Szymkowiak car that had a win at Brands Hatch, because Schneider and Szymkowiak were the qualifying race winners in the UK going back to early May. But the Mercedes didn't seem to like this short configuration of the Grand Prix circuit yesterday. Very at home on the Nordschleife, plus the full Grand Prix circuit a couple of months ago to win the 24 hours. Bernd Schneider being one of the drivers that won that event, but I'm afraid the short Grand Prix circuit didn't seem to do the Mercedes any favours. And the lap is, as you can see, truncated by the hairpin on the far left of the screen, because that loops you around from effectively the exit of turn 4 to the approach to turn 11. It cuts out the long run down to the bottom of the hill, the long right-hander, and the drag up again. So it's the short version. The GT cars here running this weekend with the German Truck Grand Prix. So that hairpin makes it a much shorter lap, and it's one that some cars, like the Nissan, do not like at all. Stop-start laps with having to get the traction down and get the power back up again coming out of the hairpin and the chicane. It's the tight version of the chicane as well. Not good for certain cars. Well, let's find out more about Mercedes. Bernd Schneider on the grid is with John.
Bernd, tell me, why is the sprint circuit so much more difficult for you or for the Mercedes than the Nordschleife, which you won the 24 hours at?
Yeah, it's always a little bit depending on the BOP, but also yesterday we were a bit unlucky because Maxi Bug was got the oil line and spun off, and we started from 26. Was not the best place to start with. But anyway, it's much harder for us at the moment, but you never know. We're looking forward to Spa. Maybe we improve a little bit there.
Now, Jules Szymkowiak is going to start the race. I saw you giving him some advice or talking to him. What words have you given him help with?
He's so quick. He was really quick yesterday in the race. Just to survive the first laps and do your own race and do your speed, because then I'm pretty sure he will gain some places, and we need to do good pit stops, that everything will have to be in possession, because if you start to panic a little bit, then everything goes slower, and the pit stops will be very important.
We'll see you later.
See you later.
Jules Szymkowiak will go first. Bernd Schneider will do the second stint today. You can see offline, still a bit damp, but nowhere near as wet as it was an hour or so ago. The pole position car there will be started by Enzo Ede. The driver that finished, of course, in yesterday's race will start today. And as you saw, it was a great drive by Enzo to try and stave off the challenge of Rob Bell, charging up onto the back of the Audi. But a little bit of time lost in the pit stops from the McLaren, and I'll be eager to make amends for that today. Third yesterday, Will Stevens and René Rast. They also lost a bit of time in the pits when, during the driver change, the seatbelt fell back onto the seat and they had to pick it up and then get the driver in. It's only a second or so lost, but it all counts, it all adds up. Marlon Stockinger getting better and better all the time. He will go from 4th on the grid. Championship-wise, now the advantage within the Sprint Cup has swung the way by 9 points of Enzo Ede and Christopher Mies. Still tied on 32 points each, Jules Szymkowiak, Bernd Schneider, plus Laurens Vanthoor and Frederik Vervies, who had a really difficult race yesterday. You're looking there at the Rob Bell McLaren, but just to finish off about Laurens Vanthoor, he was knocked into a spin at the first corner, fell down to 30-something, recovered up to 9th with Frederik Vervies doing the second stint, and then a punctured tyre. Unfortunately, it brought the car into the pits and it fell down the order. So a difficult day for the number 1 WRT Audi, but it's still there tied second in the standings in the Sprint Cup, and then 4th Rob Bell and Alvaro Parent after a good result for second place yesterday. There is the Will Stevens Audi, the former Manor Grand Prix racer, making quite a name for himself now in sports car racing, and René Rast did a great job in the first stint yesterday. Will Stevens worked the car into 3rd place, and again, because they lost a bit of time in the pits yesterday, if that can be overcome today, then there should be another good result on the cards. Further back on the grid, starting 6th, is Andy Soucek at the wheel of number 8 Bentley. Number 7, the sister car, will start 23rd. It was given a 30-second penalty post-race for an unsafe release from the pit lane. So 8 much further up the grid than 7. This is the Soucek-Soulé car. 7 is the Vincent Abril Stephen Kane entry. Both the works cars run by M Sport. And the event this weekend at the Nurburgring, a real family affair, so young fans starting to drool over which supercar they might one day aspire to. Number 4 on the grid, looking down, is Nico Müller to start. He shares with Vanthoor Minor, Dries Vanthoor, Lawrence's younger brother. Nico Müller fresh from a first DTM win at the Norris Ring last weekend. He's won the 24 Hours here in the past as well, so very good in GT and DTM style cars, having moved from single-seater racing a few seasons back. 86 Mercedes on the 4th row. Jules Szymkowiak will go first. That car on the outside of row 4, starting 8th on the grid bench, Schneider to take over. But on the inside of that row is number 99 BMW, Alexander Sims and Philippe Eng. And it's going to be Alexander Sims, the British driver, who will go first. 5 minutes to the start of the formation lap, and the drivers just being warned that there are still some slippery parts of the circuit, which they'll need to have a look at on the installation laps. 10th on the grid is the Mercedes that's going to be started by the Austrian driver Dominik Baumann, Maxi Buch to take over, and then the Mercedes has on the inside of that row, starting 9th, Stef Dusseldorp at the wheel of the 2nd of the Rover Racing BMWs. So after a lot of rain, about an hour and a half or so ago, the circuit's drier, not bone dry, but still some damp patches offline. And we are 3 minutes away from the formation lap getting underway. It's a huge grid, looking down onto 37 cars, and there the BMW, Alexander Sims and Philippe Eng's car, sorry, the sister car, Stef Dusseldorp and Maxime Martin. Stef goes first, and Maxime Martin will take over for the second stint. Both BMWs reasonably well placed on the grid, and actually have proved to be perhaps better in the Sprint Cup than the Endurance Cup this year. So they're going to be worth watching, both to make progress, if possible, from 7th and 9th on the grid. Track temperature now 18.1 degrees. The sky starting to show evidence of more blue. Temperatures going up, road drying out. 101 there is Daniel Zampieri, starting in the Attempto Racing Lamborghini. And on the inside of that row, there it is, the Ferrari that Norbert Siedler will start. 10th in the championship now, Norbert and co-driver Marco Seefried. So they're looking all the way back onto the grid. One car that's on the grid today but missed yesterday's race should be the lone Porsche of Didi Gonzalez and Sebastian Asch, double German GT champion. And that was a car that had a rear suspension drama yesterday, was pushed off the grid in fact, but should be good to go today right at the rear of the field. And we'll see what Sebastian Asch can do in that car in the second stint of the race. So the format is that they will be, of course, given the rolling start pace lap. Pace car will peel in at the end of the formation lap, and then we will be good to go. 1 hour of racing in this main race. So this is the race for which you get the most points, with 25 for a win and points on offer for the top 10. There is number 3, which is the Rodrigo Baptista Sergio Jimenez Audi, lining up on the inside of the 7th row of the grid. On the outside of that row, Jasmine Jaffar and Clement Schmidt in the Mercedes. So the fans who have packed in for a weekend of truck racing and GT action are seeing something completely different from the MANs and Scanias and Ivecos they've been watching earlier on in the day, as this absolutely stunning grid of supercars prepares to do battle. And with some of the top names in sports car racing behind the wheel, this promises to be a great battle indeed. can't imagine anybody is on anything other than slick tyres, and they're going to have to be cautious for the first lap or so, but after that it's going to be absolutely flat out as the green flag is waved here at the Nurburgring. Nurburgring, the venue for the main race in this, the third round of the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup. The formation lap underway, headed by the pole position Audi, yesterday's winning car in the qualifying race of Enzo Eid at the wheel and Christopher Mies, who will take the car over. McLaren lining up on the front row as well. Rob Bell to start. It's all Audi on row 2. Will Stevens alongside Marlon Stockinger. It is Audi and Bentley on row 3. Nico Müller and Andy Soucek. The cars have this final formation lap, and then we will be in business. Let's have another look at the full grid. Enzo Eid and Rob Bell on the front row. Row 2, Will Stevens and Marlon Stockinger. The third row of the grid has on the inside Nico Müller and Andy Soucek lining up alongside. It's BMW and Mercedes next. Alexander Sims alongside Jules Kowiak. Then it's BMW alongside Mercedes once again. Steph Dusseldorp and Dominic Baumann on row 5. Row 6. All Italian, Ferrari, Norbert Siedler starting, and alongside him is Daniel Zampieri in the Lamborghini. Rodrigo Baptista's Audi and the Mercedes of Jasmine Jaffar share row 7. Row 8, there is Michele Beretta's Lamborghini and the Nissan in the hands of Mitsunori Takaboshi. Row 9, Lamborghini and Ferrari. Davide Valsecchi will start the Lamborghini, Michael Bronizeski will start the Ferrari. Then Santiloc's Audi of Romain Monti and Nikolai Moller-Madsen in the Phoenix car, the second of which is driven by Nicky Mar Malmhoff, lining up on row 11 with Max van Splunteren alongside. 23rd is the Bentley of Vincent Abril. 24th, Frederic Verviche, 2 cars to watch there. Then Ricardo Sanchez in the Nissan alongside Jean-Luc Bobelic's Mercedes, sister car of Tristan Vautier, which was given 2 30-second penalties for contact yesterday. 2 separate accidents, lines up on row 14 alongside Stuart Leonard's Audi, ahead of Claudio Stevanovic with the AF Corsa Ferrari and Christophe Bourret's Mercedes. Mike Parisi and Steve Parro, the pseudonym driver, next, ahead of Ezequiel Perez Compact, and Martin Plowman with a new fuel pump in the Garage 59 McLaren. Frank Stippler, after damage yesterday, near the back of the grid in 75, 9th in the championship. Nicolas Pola in the damaged Lamborghini from an incident on lap 1 starts alongside, and then Didi Gonzalez in the Porsche will round out the grid as the cars work their way up towards the chicane. Everybody will get themselves now into the 2x2 Noah's Ark style formation. The front of the grid, remember, being Audi and McLaren. They finished the race nose to tail yesterday with 0.3 of a second apart, and it's going to be another great fight between them as we get set for 60 minutes of flat out racing. John Watson.
Yes, we've got virtually a dry racetrack. I think turns 3 and 4 maybe fractionally damp offline, but it's going to be key. Who will get the charge off the line? Will it be Enzo Eid, who won yesterday? Will it be Rob Bell and the McLaren? Rob Bell's got to get the job done. That's his best chance of getting the lead of this race. If he's got to fight for it, it's going to be a much more difficult task altogether.
And we're about to find out whether he can get the lead. Nurburgring, round 3 of the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup. The main race is go. Lights go green, it's blast off, and the McLaren charges away. Rob Bell gets the lead, moves across on Enzo Eid to defend all the way down to turn 1. Will Stevens in the Audi with the green wing tries to get up the inside as well, but Maxime Soulet and Andy Soucek's Bentley. Soucek at the wheel looking for track space on the inside and in the middle, and up the curb goes Enzo Eid, and wide goes the Bentley. Wide also there goes the ISR Audi of Marlon Stockinger, and the Bentley in strife as they work their way up towards turn 2.
Yes, it's going rally across on the exit of turn 1 into turn 2, so starting in the 3rd row grid position all the way now back to what would have been the equivalent of about 10th or 11th.
There's some damage, isn't there? Looks like bodywork fouling a tyre. There's a bit of smoke coming off Bentley number 8, so drama straight away for Andy Soucek as the race leading McLaren tries to make good his escape, just like Alvaro Parent did in the equivalent stint yesterday through the hairpin, lap 1. Cars accelerate their way then now up towards turn 11, and it's Rob Bell in the lead of the race. Enzo Eid running second. In 3rd spot it is Will Stevens, and then 4th going after them is Nico Müller.
But it's in the middle to the back of the field, coming out of turn 4A. This sounds Mercedes, literally there's not a space of tarmac you can leave live on.
And somebody else that's, of course, trying to make some progress from yesterday, the 84 Baumann and Buch Mercedes as they work their way up towards the chicane. Then for the first time, Rob Bell it is leading the way. Now, is he going to get away from the opposition? Yesterday, Alvaro Parent was in a similar situation. He led, but he could never shake off the pack behind. Today, it's Rob Bell's turn to see how he gets on as they dive into the chicane. Bronizeski coming under attack from number 1 Audi there, which has got Frederic Verviche at the wheel for the first stint as over the line. 1 lap in the book. Rob Bell leads the way. Second coming over the timing line, the Audi of Enzo Eid. It's Audi 3rd. Will Stevens is Audi 4th in the hands of Nico Müller. Then it's Mercedes 5th. Jules Kowiak, BMW 6th. Alexander Sims. And look at the second second. BMW getting all towies round the outside. Goes the Ferrari there. Norbert Siedler tries to gain the place, but hung out to dry.
You just got to be so careful. Those curbs are wringing wet. You put a tire on it, you're going to lose traction. And just we saw that Enzo E doing it, coming out of turn 3, running very wide. The grass, or more like it's AstroTurf, on the outside of these corners, still holding lots and lots of moisture. You've just got to be very careful. Here on the exit of 4, everybody traditionally, well, we see again on board the Ferrari, there's the 8 Bentley in left front, looks like it's gone down. And what a terrible start for Andy Soucek, who was hoping after a position, a 6th position yesterday, for better today.
Can they stay on the lead lap though? If they change that tyre and go a lap down, then it's game over. If they can stay on the lead lap and they were to be a safety car, it brings them slightly back into the equation, albeit at the tail end of the field. As there, look, the 333 Ferrari is on a real hunting mission now. Norbert Siedler getting himself onto the back of the traffic ahead as they work their way towards us. And how about this fight as well? Nico Müller coming under real attack from Szymkowiak, and then Alexander Sims in the BMW goes to the outside line up towards the chicane. Szymkowiak trying to attack and defend at the same time. The BMW monstering the Mercedes.
Couldn't get any closer than that in the chicane, and certainly the pace of Szymkowiak being delayed by that of the Nico Müller Audi, and the BMW showing much better pace than it did on Saturday afternoon. We saw Philip Eng holding up a train of about 8 cars mid-race, now they're having to go defensive, coming down pit straight. Szymkowiak gets up alongside it. You got enough straight. The Mercedes say they don't have quite the speed they've had in other races, and there it's proven the Audi could hold it off comfortably. It's the BMW and then the Mercedes behind that's going to be the real danger to the lead Audi of this group.
But of course the number 4 Audi here is allowing the 2 teammates, 2nd and 3rd, to build a bit more of a cushion up the road. So this could be quite important later in the race as they work their way now through the Mercedes arena. Look at the traffic jam that's queuing up behind Nico Müller. Now, does he genuinely not have pace, or is this a ploy to let the other 2 get a big advantage for later in the race?
In my view, Nico Müller has got all the pace in the world. We saw that on Saturday afternoon. I cannot believe that there's a conscious and deliberate attempt to slow down the pack behind, because it's the Mercedes which really wasn't in the battle for the lead. What he is doing, of course, is creating a chain of cars which is now probably about 10 or 11 cars long, and the pace is being dictated by the Audi. Everybody's going to get frustrated. Tempers may get frayed.
And then light the blue touch paper and stand back. But you can see how far back this train is falling. So Nico Müller, having finished 5th in yesterday's race, mysteriously not able to run with the leaders at the moment. Honest, up towards the chicane. Mercedes, BMW tucked up behind. So number 99 there, Alexander Sims, the British driver, on the back of Jules Szymkowiak, former Formula 3 racer. Szymkowiak on the back of DTM race winner Nico Müller as they work their way through turn 17. Now, a good exit from this corner sets you up for a run up the inside down towards turn 1.
But Szymkowiak didn't quite get as close to the tail of the Audi as he has done previous laps there. We can see Dominic Baumann having to go to defensive against the Ferrari. The Ferrari has got good straight line speed, might be able to get a nose ahead as they come down into turn 1. Baumann holds the line, but the outside of the racetrack still reasonably grippy, and the Ferrari gets the job done.
Excellent move. Norbert Siedler round the outside, so that gives him 7th place now in the green Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. The 2 teammates at Audi there, Enzo Ede and Will Stevens, running nose to tail, and then Nico Müller has got everybody else in a line stacked up behind him, with Siedler the one chipping his way through, and the fastest lap so far done by a Bentley. Vincent Abril, 16th, quickest man on the circuit.
Yeah, and we're looking at the 28 Audi, already putting pressure on Enzo Ede, who was the winner, and of course that car with Christopher Mies leading the Drivers' Championship. So Will Stevens, is he trying to hurry up Enzo Ede, or is he just trying to sort of, well, I'm your rear gunner, I'm here, be aware I'm here. But it's that green Ferrari that is going to be the car in this group that are behind the 2nd and 3rd place battle. There you can see Enzo Ede going defensive. Will Stevens has got the speed off the corner, makes a very clean and easy pass, and I don't know whether that was a little bit of maybe teamwork from the pit lane, but certainly that was the easiest pass I've seen all weekend.
Yes, I think Ede, realising he hadn't got the pace, lets the sister car go. So Will Stevens up to 2nd, Enzo Ede 3rd. But of course the championship leaders want to score well in this race, so there's no point getting involved in any silliness, especially with your teammate, as now of course it releases Will Stevens to see what he can do about Rob Bell in the McLaren, who leads the way. So Rob Bell leading by 2.6 seconds.
And remember, the race on Saturday, the qualifying race, was won in the pit lane by the WRT team. They managed to get a 7 to 8 second advantage over the Garage 59 crew, and maybe by bringing Will Stevens into this equation with the lead McLaren, that's what they're going to hope for to true when it gets to the round of pit stops, which will be coming up in about, well, 20 odd minutes.
So the extra dimension to the race in that window, that middle 10 minutes, as there Siedler thinks about making a move. Not quite a gap, but he's up the curb as he tries to dislodge Alexander Sims from 6th place. Behind them, Dominic Baumann trying to come back into the mix. Now there in 4th place is Müller, who's still got this traffic jam behind him. But there, the real battle is on for 6th spot. BMW, Sims, Ferrari, Seidler. Oh, way up the curb goes Enzo Ede.
So just Enzo Ede, now all he's got is clear air. He's not bothered by anybody directly behind him. He's still got the Muller car behind, or the Nico Muller car behind. It's this battle. If the Ferrari can manage to get itself released from behind the BMW, get onto the tail of the next few cars, maybe. But you know, we've got just under 20 minutes before the pit lane opens. It's going to be so difficult to pass. We're not going to see many overtakes like Will Stevens on Enzo Ede. That's guaranteed.
Now what's going to happen next in this line of cars? It's got to be the Ferrari, hasn't it? That's the mover, because Norbert Seidler is on his toes, looking for a way past the big BMW, new this year, in the hands of Alexander Sims as they turn their way now up towards the completion of the lap, riding with the Ferrari.
But remember, the BMW, that 4-litre twin-turbo engine, got great squirt, good traction out of turn 17, and the Ferrari, although it's got more top speed, Alexander Sims recognises that. Can Seidler do the same thing he did to the Mercedes a couple of laps ago? He's going to try and find the long way around, almost side by side as they go in. Sims runs them wide. Seidler's got to duck in behind the back of the BMW. Indication that the BMW's got a fraction more straight line speed than we saw from the Mercedes. But Dominic Barman, there is a Bentley number 7. What has gone wrong? It's been an awful afternoon so far for Bentley.
Absolutely, and that car couldn't have had a problem in a worse place. It's got to limp round for a whole lap, even though it's a short lap here, as Michael Bronizeski in the Ferrari hangs on to his place down at turn 1. So Sims then in the new M6 BMW, keeping at bay the new 488 Ferrari of Norbert Seidler, which is keeping at bay the new Mercedes AMG GT3 in the hands of Dominic Baumann. 6th, 7th and 8th they run, and here again you can see, even though we know that Seidler is quick, it's not easy to find a way through that traffic.
No, it's not at all. What's important right now at the front is Rob Bell has got a 3-second advantage at his last lap, fastest lap of the race to date. He needs to stretch that 3-second advantage up to nearer to 7 or 8 seconds. Once the Ferrari comes up alongside Alexander Sims, can he go? No, he's got to back out of it again. Alexander Sims, familiar with the car, familiar with the racetrack, knows where to put the BMW. Slower off the corner, the Ferrari's got the advantage. Again, strong defence from Sims. Now look at Dominic Baumann has gone up the inside, and the Ferrari's been wrong-sided completely by the BMW and the Mercedes, but it somehow or other gets back to the
over the line. What a battle, fantastic. And the other BMW is buying into this as well now, because Steph Dusseldorf is at the back of the queue. Seidler on the outside line, gets his nose in front, down towards turn 1. He's done it. Look at the other BMW. Is this going to pay out for Dusseldorf? He's right there on the back of Baumann. Seidler is through. He's up now into 6th place, and he's got a bit of clear real estate ahead of him. So now Seidler can sprint away.
And Seidler, I tell you, I thought he was going to be completely wrong-footed in turn 17, but the gaps opened up, allowed him to make the undercut, got the drive, got past the BMW. Dominic Baumann was the one car I thought would maybe make advantage, but of course he's now under pressure from Steph Dusseldorf, so he's going to be kept honest for the next lap or so.
So Norbert Seidler, the great opportunist, able to work his way into contention and gain the place. And there's still a bit more ground to make up before the pit stops, that is for sure. The next target is Jules Szymkowiak, but he's nearly 3 seconds up the road. Now 3rd and 4th Audis are getting themselves together. Ede ahead of Muller, that gap's coming down as Enzo Ede starts to drop back now into the clutches of those behind, just a little bit. Szymkowiak 5th, and of course he has been able to get away from the traffic behind with all the squabbling. Let's have a look at a replay of the start and have a look at Andy Soucek's Bentley and also 74 Audi of Martin Stockinger, because they are under investigation.
So they come in side by side. The Bentley sort of sandwiched between the two Audis, turns in. There's contact initially, then the contact with the ISR Audi on the outside, and really I don't think there's very much will be said about it. It's just too many cars and too little real estate, and the inevitable occurred.
And that means other people have to scatter behind, and some get delayed and some gain places, but it's always a pinch point, isn't it, that first corner?
It is, and because it's so wide also, the main straight, you can get 5 cars wide coming into what it is at 2 maximum width, apex to the corner. So there's the Bentley, turns in, the contact there you see, right front, left front of the Bentley, and that's where the left front tire went down.
And so that car is back in the race, but of course a long way down. Now, down in 35th position is Andy Soucek. So we've got the cars working currently, lap number 8. Rob Bell, the race leader.
Yes, but we're saying Will Stevens has closed that gap. It was 3 seconds on lap 6. At the end of lap 7, it's now to 2.7. So Will Stevens on that last lap did a lap fractionally quicker than the race leader. So Will Stevens is not there just to enjoy a Sunday drive rather than, well, the Nurburgring sprint circuit. He's here to try and take a victory.
And maybe Norbert Seidler's thinking the same, because he's done the absolute best first sector of everybody. Now he's got a clear road ahead of him, a bit like Will Stevens has, of course. He's pounding in these very good sector times. There, look, the green Ferrari in the background closing on Jules Szymkowiak's Mercedes, and 2 absolute best by Norbert Siedler. He should be on here for the fastest lap of the race thus far as the fuel load comes down, of course, working their way now through turn 17. Nico Müller is under attack once more from Szymkowiak, but he's also on the back of Enzo Ede. Race leader through, about to put a lap on Andy Soucek up the road. Have a look at the Ferrari because Norbert Siedler comes across the line. He does. 3 purple sectors, fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, he takes the best part of a second out of the gap between himself. 5th place Jules Szymkowiak. So the Ferrari right now clearly on a mission, but it's the battle that's going on with Ede, Müller and Szymkowiak. They're all at Enzo Ede leading this 3-car train. His pace is dictating that of Nico Müller and that, of course, of Jules Szymkowiak. That's allowing the Ferrari to eat, but nevertheless, it's the sheer pace of the 333 Rinaldi Ferrari that is really the mesmerising part of the race at the minute.
If Siedler can carry on doing these good lap times, then he's going to get himself into the mix. Trouble is then he's in danger of getting stuck in the traffic. So can he work his way through effectively once he catches Szymkowiak? Because he can't find a way past Müller, and Müller isn't really as yet trying to get past Ede, is he? Because of course Nico Müller isn't in the championship hunt, whereas the car he's chasing is the championship leading car.
So Sims and Baumann and Dusseldorp, they're all backing up. They're back to the lead, and the Bentley is between the 1st and 2nd place cars. There is Will Stevens. Last time he came across the line, 2.7 seconds was the gap, and there's a little bit of a bubble for Müller coming into the chicane under braking. Enzo Ede comes out of the corner. Now that gives Szymkowiak the chance. That little bubble for Nico Müller put him in a danger zone. The Mercedes has managed to get cleanly through. Bump on the back just to say, look, I didn't let you do that easily, and I'm not going to make it easy for you in turn 17 either. But Szymkowiak gets a clean pass. Now he can hone in on the rear of Enzo Ede. But the Ferrari, look, again, it's closing up. The gap is now 0.3 of a second between that
and the Audi ahead. So down to turn 1, closing back up under braking is Nico Müller. But look at Norbert Siedler just gobbling up the road ahead. He's on the tail now of Nico Müller, but Szymkowiak, having gone through, proves it's possible. Norbert Siedler has got great speed. Remember, he's the quickest driver in the race thus far. Gets it up on the curb and gets a bit sideways, but he's absolutely flying as he works his way through turn 3. Andy Soucek's Bentley, he's about to go a lap down, incidentally. He's got flapping bodywork, left front corner, and it's team manager being summoned to the race director. Down to the hairpin. Siedler, man on a mission, still running in 6th place. Now there's the fight for 7th. Sims versus Baumann, BMW versus Mercedes, British driver versus Austrian driver. Siedler on the back of Müller. Up now towards the Vidal chicane, the Vidal S, as behind, look, you've got 99, Alexander Sims working his way through. And downhill they go once more, the Ferrari closing up, inch by inch, onto the tail of Nico Müller.
Certainly the Ferrari has got the maximum speed that everybody else is lacking, so that makes his overtaking tasks very much easier. You can see him flashing the lights, looking to get a bit of interest into turn 4. But Nico Müller not going to do anything about it. He's given up one position relatively easily because of a mistake in that chicane a couple of laps ago. He doesn't want to do it again. But watch the Ferrari's pace, gets good drive off the final turn, and can it get close enough at this point to get the slipstream and put himself in position? He's going to have to go the long way around. Nico Müller's going to go over to the left, right-hand side of the racetrack. There you see him go now. Ferrari's going to have to go the long way around. He can afford to try and brake a little bit later, but Müller late in the brakes. Can the Ferrari make the undercut now as they come through the apex of turn 1 and accelerating? Status quo is unchanged.
But Siedler is still, of course, turning in good sector times, but he's in danger of getting a bit stuck now. And if he does get stuck, then in real terms, Bell and Stevens will start to pull away up the road ahead. So they turn their way now, once more, out of turn 4. Fastest lap of the race, still Norbert Siedler, set a few laps back as they head off downhill once more towards the hairpin. Is he going to dive up the inside there? Thinks about it, but the line is already covered by Nico Müller, who knows this configuration well from racing around it in the DTM. Siedler has raced around this configuration in Carrera Cup Germany.
And Jules Szymkowiak really giving Enzo Ede a good workout. And he will be under pressure again as they come onto the what they call the back straight. It's a dogleg straight. It's not particularly long. It's not any quicker than the main pit straight. But the Mercedes, they said that the car didn't have quite the top speed that they enjoyed at Paul Ricard, but it's going to be the battle behind to see whether the Ferrari can do anything with Nico Müller. Not able to do it here, but again, it's about getting position on the exit of the chicane. Nico Müller has got to be clean. He is clean this time. The Ferrari, obviously, no difficulties whatsoever. And again, it's coming onto the pit straight where the Ferrari will once again seek to make a clean pass down into turn 1.
We're approaching the pit window. We are not there yet. We've got about 8 minutes or so. And in the case of Enzo Ede, expect him to be one of the first in to put the quicker Christopher Mies into the car. interesting to see how other teams play this out, as Nico Müller again has to defend from Norbert Siedler. Outside at turn 1, can he get the cut back? No, not close enough, so Müller hangs on to that place. Look up the road though, Szymkowiak now, he's all over Enzo Eid like a rash, isn't he? Trying to find a gap on the inside, the outside, anywhere. And the Mercedes has got the pace, but he's being held up. Szymkowiak then, right on the back as they work their way through turns 3, now 4.
Yes, back on the back and with the Ferrari and bodywork flying off the Bentley, but it's the battle here between Nico Müller, I beg your pardon, and the Ferrari. So coming up into turn 4 and 4A, so the exit out. The Ferrari, this is not some part of the racetrack you're going to see much chance of passing. It's easy to defend. So Szymkowiak's got this battle with Enzo Eid. He's going to try and get off turn 12 that little bit quicker. The same will apply to the Ferrari, but the gap between the Ferrari and Nico Müller slightly greater than it was in previous laps.
Szymkowiak then, still stuck behind Enzo Eid, defending well and being caught again by Nico Müller, who is taking with him Norbert Siedler, so that gap is coming down and down, 5th to 6th, and they're closing up on 4th, the Mercedes of Szymkowiak. So McLaren leads Audi, Mercedes, Audi, Ferrari in the top 6, BMW 7th, Mercedes 8th, Audi 9th, BMW 10th. Norbert Siedler having a look up the inside as they come through turn 17. The race-leading McLaren, Rob Bell, leads by 3.7 seconds.
It's a comfortable lead, but it's not comfortable enough for me, because we know that Garage 59 got beaten on pit stops. As we look again and see Szymkowiak trying to make a move again further back. Nico Müller going very defensive on the entry down into turn 1. The Ferrari struggling in the gets.
Through goes the Mercedes.
Yep,
Enzo Eid gave him plenty of room, didn't he? Got wrong-footed a bit there, ran out wide. So Jules Szymkowiak through, and Enzo Eid has to regroup and think about it all over again. Nico Müller doesn't make mistakes like that, but he's got Norbert Siedler right up behind him, almost alongside him, as up the curb goes the Ferrari. But Nico Müller hangs onto the place. There's the battered Bentley, a lap down now, Andy Soucek, and Jules Szymkowiak look released from behind Eid, trying to get away, and is getting away. His next target is going to be Will Stevens, 9 seconds up the road.
Enzo Eid very, very wide going through turn 4A, and now he's got the Nico Müller, of course, and the Ferrari battling away. That was an opportunity for the Nico Müller Audi to get through. Now the Ferrari closer than it's ever been, coming through turn 12 as they go on to the second quickest part of this Nurburgring sprint racetrack. The Ferrari trying to get up alongside as they come into the dogleg, gets alongside, gets the position. Well done, well executed. Quicker off turn 12, that's always going to be the key to a pass. Now he can defend quite easily. Now he's got to think about getting past Enzo Eid, who so give up that position relatively cleanly and easily to Jules Szymkowiak. So Szymkowiak into 3rd and the Ferrari up to 5th.
So through turn 17 they come. Jules Szymkowiak, now that he has been released from behind Enzo Eid, did a personal best in the first sector. Flashing of the lights as Andy Soucek is aware of the cars on the lead lap, bearing down on him. Szymkowiak then up to 3rd, Eid down to 4th, 5th is Siedler, 6th is Müller. Baumann is up to 7th, incidentally, ahead of Alexander Sims. That change has happened as well, as they're diving up the inside at turn 1. It's Frederic Vervisch, the number 1 Audi, against 99 Alexander Sims. Through goes the Audi, up into 8th place goes Vervisch, or does he? Because he's on the wrong line for turn 2, and Alexander Sims says, no, I'll have that place back.
Well, Sims just had done enough, and look at also Düsseldorf, and now we're seeing the Vervisch running way off track, about to lose, and nearly cut the nose off the Audi as he came back on track. So just simply trying too hard in turn 1, and Alexander Sims hugging it out on the outside. If you can stay there and avoid going over the curb, you will pick up grip and traction, but it puts you into a position to defend into turn 2, which Alexander Sims did perfectly.
And it was very nearly contact between Rodrigo Baptista and the recovering Frederic Vervisch, who just chopped across the front of him back onto the circuit. And all of that, as you saw, allowed Stef Düsseldorf up 1 place as well. So the 2 BMWs running in tandem now, getting themselves into 8th and 9th once more. Szymkowiak, ignore the Bentley, sad to say, because it's a lap down. There is Enzo Eid in 33, and 3 behind is Norbert Siedler, who's perhaps now going to try to get a good run out of 17 and make the move at turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a no-brainer that the Ferrari is going to get into position, getting a good drive. But Enzo Eid, under pressure, remember, he's a gentleman driver, he's not a professional driver like others around him, but the speed of the Ferrari just beginning to add into the Audi, picking up position. Eid's going to go to the right, Ferrari's going to go the long way round, Eid's going to be late in the brakes. It'll be an undercut if Siedler can do it. Yes, he's got the position, but he hasn't got the position in terms of getting up alongside. And of course, the Audi on the inside to go into that long looping turn 3. Ferrari looking to sneak up the inside before they get into the apex of 3. Can't do it.
This defence, and what we saw yesterday does illustrate how far Enzo Eid has come as a driver in his years in GT racing, because years ago Seidler would have been up and past him by now, but Enzo Eid able to defend for corner after corner, lap after lap, but for how much longer can he do it? Norbert Seidler is a pro driver. He's in a very quick car. He's the quickest man in the race thus far. He's got the best lap of the race to his name, and he's on the back of Enzo Eid now as they work their way through the S, about to accelerate down to the Ad Van Bogen. And of course, while Seidler's trying to find a way by, he's got to be mindful that Nico Müller is right on his tail as well.
Yes, well, one little mistake from Enzo Eid will then inhibit the Ferrari, and that'll give Nico Müller the opportunity. Enzo Eid was quick off turn 12 in this lap, so there's no opportunity for the Ferrari to have a sneak look down the inside as they break into the chicane.
Through they come. Seidler needs once more that good run out of turn 17 to make the move on the way down to turn 1. He pulls out, tries to distract Enzo Eid, put him offline going through turn 17, but he just seems to soak up pressure these days. He comes out of the final right-hander. Both of them ride the curb. Over the timing line they come. There's less than a length in it, but Seidler now has a good run.
Yes, but he can't get down the right-hand side of the track. Audi's going to block that. Gets up alongside. He's got further ahead this time, or further alongside this time, and the opportunity to keep his nose ahead and stay, and they're going to be on the right side of the track. So the Ferrari has got the track position, gets the place done. Great defence by Eid, minor little bit of contact, totally fair within the context of the battle that's going on, and the Ferrari makes it through up into 4th place.
And that brings Müller and also Baumann onto the tail of Enzo Eid now. So Norbert Seidler up into 4th place, trying to get away, but he's 13 seconds away from the race leader Rob Bell. So these now have got to be qualifying laps effectively for Seidler, if he can get a clear road, and that Bentley up the road is a lap down, so that needs to be negotiated as well, and it's running on the same kind of pace as the leading cars. It just lost all that time when it had to make the pit stop for a new tyre.
Now this is where the Bentley's got to step sideways at the Ferrari, and those following get through cleanly, because we want to see what ultimately the Ferrari's pace is going to be. It's 3.8 seconds as they came across the line at the end of lap 15, 1 lap ago. Absolutely correct from Andy Soucek, gets out of the way, but now he's got 2 Audis and a Mercedes, so he's going to do the same thing to let these 3 cars go through. He's out of the race in effect, currently lying in 34th position. Disappointment for Bentley, because this number 7 Bentley appears to have been, well, it's certainly 1 lap down. Vincent Abril behind the wheel. 11 laps down, it's been retired.
Yeah, sad to say. So as the surviving 8 car, which is a lap down anyway, lets the traffic go. Huge frustration for Bentley, coming on the back of frustration after a win went begging at Paul Ricard a week ago. That bodywork is still trying to part company with the car as well. Down to turn 1, Baumann looking for the outside line against Müller, who is defending not only his place, but of course he's also protecting Enzo Eid.
And I think now Müller has to do the rear gunner action. He's got to stay behind Enzo Eid. He's got to protect Enzo Eid. He doesn't want that car to drop further down, to lose more positions. Certainly not points at this stage, but more positions before the round of pit stops, which will be opening up in 30 seconds.
And Enzo Eid should be one of the first in. So is this going to be his last lap of the stint? He goes a little bit deep into the hairpin. Marco Seefried getting ready to take over from Norbert Seidler. And WRT getting ready then, new tyres as there. Müller still keeping Baumann at bay. So you've got the battles on the track, you've got the battles in the pits to look for as well, and it's going to be fascinating to see how the McLaren's pit stop is today, the Bell Parent car, relative to yesterday, where time was lost. At the moment, Bell leads Stevens by 4 seconds.
Yes, and if you take yesterday's loss of time in the pits, that would put the Audi ahead. But look, Dominic Baumann trying to get up alongside the Audi, under-braking. The Nico Müller Audi really running solid, and Enzo Eid, yes, and both Audis coming in, and the Dominic Baumann, so from 5th, 6th through 7th, coming into the pit lane to hand over. Christopher Mies will take over from Enzo Eid, and number 4, Dries van Thor will take over. So, and then obviously, maybe the unluckiest man in yesterday's race, Maximilian Buch, who got caught on the fluid on turn 1 on the second lap and had a spin entirely of his own. I think it was the first car that hit that fluid, and they had to start way back in the grid. Great drive by Dominic Baumann to get it up to where it is right now.
Porsche pitting to put Sebastian Asch behind the wheel. WRT is going to have to cycle 2 cars through at once, so both Eid and Müller come in. Christopher Mies and Dries van Thor will leave. Rover Racing turning Alexander Sims' car around, and therefore Philip Eng to get behind the wheel of that. So still Bell, Stevens, Szymkowiak, Seidler, Vervish, Dusseldorf, the leading 6 now, and there is Rob Bell. The gap 3.8 seconds at the start of this lap, and making his way up towards the chicane. How far into the race does Rob Bell go? Does he come in at the halfway point? It would make sense. Now look, they're having to wriggle the cars around, and it looks as though it is going to be...
It's a problem for the end to eat Christopher Haas.
Yeah.
That left rear is not coming up. Lead car coming in. Good pit work by Garage 59. They've seen a problem there. Maybe they intended to come in anyway, but that is going to be music to their ears.
Indeed. So just to finish off, it's Dries Van Thor out first then, and away goes the E car. Sorry, other way round. It's the Christopher Mies car that has gone, and now leaving the pit lane is Dries Van Thor. So Enzo Ede and Christopher Mies, okay, it was the number 4 Audi that had the problem. So the one that WRT was having to wriggle backwards was the second car, and they're both back on track, but it's going to be Van Thor, I think, that has lost out on that with the problem on that left rear corner. So in has come Rob Bell. So Will Stevens now leads the way. There he is, 28 Audi then coming out of turn 4. That's the leading car on the pit stops. He was 3.8 seconds behind on the previous lap, now leads the way.
Yes, and he's got clear air so he can drive his own race. He's got nobody to interfere with the car, and he will run, I am assuming, doing good lap times right now, stay in the car until probably the latter part of the pit stop window before any rest will get in and conclude. And Will Stevens, this car finished 3rd yesterday. I said to him in that Parc Fermé, are we going to see you again? He said, I'd like to be back in the podium. So it's not out of the question.
Yeah.
But that car right now, Will Stevens, 28, leading the race before his pit stop, could be in a very strong position.
Especially given that he is quick, and so too his co-driver René Rast. Lamborghini pit stops cycling through. Christopher Mies has done the absolute best final sector in the race thus far on his first lap behind the wheel. Stevens stays out for another lap.
And importantly, that in-out pit stop time was 2 minutes and 13.6 seconds. Need to have a look and see what it was for the McLaren when it comes across the line. The number 58 McLaren yet still to come across. It's just leaving the pits now.
And the delayed Audi that we saw just to tidy it all up was the number 4 Dries Van Thor car. That has dropped back into 27th place after the problem in the pit stop. So there Will Stevens leading the way. Second on the road now is Norbert Siedler. The absolute best first sector has been done by Christopher Mies to add to his absolute best 3rd on the previous lap. So 33 Mies, 19th, but of course he's way down after the pit stops. He'll be, in real terms, much higher up the order. He is absolutely flying. Will Stevens has got to do comparable laps here, but he's about 7/10 of a second down in sector 1 alone. So that car is not necessarily going to have it all its own way against the other Audis, never mind the McLaren, when we get the pit window closed and we have a true picture of how the race is going to pan out. So Stevens then versus Siedler at the moment, and they are doing comparable lap times, comparable sector times.
Yes, it's very shortly we're going to find out the length of time, the pit stop, and the out was for the 58 McLaren. So that's going to be key, right? Has been taken over by, there it is, there's the car, that lead red and the lights going out. Alvaro Parent behind the wheel, still waiting for the transponder on that car to click over to Alvaro Parent. So it's showing, let's see, as it comes across the line, 2:16.9. So that car lost 3 seconds to the Mies Ede car, but it should still be in the lead once the whole wash of the pit stops is played through.
The Ede Mies pit stop was 52.1 seconds. The Bell Parent was 55.5.
3 seconds, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Backs it up on the data. Fastest lap of the race, Christopher Mies now, 1:27.6. As into the pits comes the number 1 Audi, which had got itself into 3rd on the pit stops. Vervies to give way to Van Thor. Siedler, in the meantime, be looking at 10 seconds back from Will Stevens. In other words, he's dropping away a little bit and coming towards the end of his stint, but going as far as he can behind the wheel of that car at the moment.
Yeah, he pushed very hard in the opening laps, had to make compromises. So Audi in. Key right now for me is Christopher Mies. Fastest lap of the race, 1:27.628. Second fastest lap of the race, 1:27.741 from Maximilian Buch in that Mercedes-Benz. So there is potentially a danger that Christopher Mies might take over the lead of the race, and Maximilian Buch will be coming down the pit straight as the overlap will come with the McLaren for that battle for second place. We wait to see whether that is the case overall or not. The 58 Alvaro Parent, last lap or fastest lap of the race to Alvaro Parent, 1:27.5. So Parent has responded.
Leader in, Will Stevens into the pit lane to give way to René Rast in 28. So the race-leading Audi comes in. I suspect the Ferrari of Norbert Siedler will chase him down the pit lane. Marco Seefried, you saw a moment ago, bouncing up and down on his toes, getting ready. The Ferrari is in the pit lane then as it works its way on the tight inside of turn 17 down the pit road. WRT hoping for no dramas here for the Stevens-Rast car. Of course, there were dramas earlier in the pit stop window for the number 4 Van Thor Muller Audi. That car's pit stop was 1 minute and 19.7 seconds against 52 seconds of the Mies Eid sister car. In comes Will Stevens. Yesterday they lost a bit of time when the seatbelt dropped back down onto the seat, so they had to pick it up and waste a few seconds. Norbert Siedler wriggles out. In gets the green helmeted Marco Seefried, Porsche and Ferrari specialist these days, just as Norbert Siedler is. Driver out, helps with the belts. Mechanics change the tyres as they run around the car. Only 2 mechanics allowed, so you've got to be fit, you've got to be quick, you've got to be accurate. There, over the timing line goes Alvaro Parent. Now, does he get the lead of the race back? It's going to be close because there is René Rast. But the McLaren does hang on to the advantage. So today, better pit stops. Maybe not quite as good as the Mies Eid pit stop, but it's good enough to keep the car in the lead.
Yeah, and also that fastest lap of the race that we saw a couple of laps ago from Alvaro Parent was sufficient just to give that little margin, that little bit of fresh air between now and the 28 Audi René Rast. I mean, Audi are spoiled for choice. You've got René Rast, you've got Christopher Mies, who's doing again just before the earlier pit stops fantastic lap times. So it is Maximilian Buch, who actually second sector in the Mercedes, who's chasing Christopher Mies, and 21.8 in that second sector.
Alvaro Parent, last lap through, did the fastest lap of the race. So now you've got Parent versus Rast in real terms for the race lead, and Marco Seefried in the Ferrari to factor into this as well. But there, the McLaren then working its way up through the Advanborgen towards the chicane. Alvaro Parent led his stint all the way yesterday to give way to Rob Bell. Today, of course, it's the other way round. The second driver from yesterday starts today, and Parent has also got a bit of traffic between himself and the opposition, but now we'll start monitoring gaps and lap times and sectors and see whether that car can be caught.
Well, rather than putting the commentators' curse on the lead, the McLaren has got, they've won 2 of the endurance events in the Blancpain Sprint and Endurance GT Championships. They've yet to win in the sprint, and this has got to be their best opportunity. Yeah. 26 minutes remaining, and not a comfortable lead, a lead of what, about 1.92 seconds as they come across start-finish line.
So Parent versus Rast, 2 absolute stars in GT cars. And who's in third place? It is Bernd Schneider, who is another 9.5 seconds back in the Mercedes that's got up the order. 4th is Christopher Mies, who is still charging on. 5th is Seefried in the Ferrari. 6th is Maximilian Buch's Mercedes. 7th is Laurens Van Thor's Audi. 8th, Maxime Martin's BMW. 9th, Philipp Eng's BMW. And 10th, Davide Valsecchi Lamborghini.
I mean, there's not a no-hooper amongst any of them. I mean, you've got the cream of GT3 drivers around the world in this sprint battle right now, and most of them are in the top 10.
And there's more cream that I didn't offer you on that menu from 11th place and back that just can't get into the top 10 at the moment. But the charging Rast is chipping away in sector 1 against Alvaro Parent. Marco Seefried hustling on to try to get himself into the mix against Christopher Mies. Mies also doing lap times that are comparable to the race leader. So with 25.5 minutes to go, this is still a great battle. But the top 2, 9.5 seconds ahead of Bernd Schneider. So there's probably going to be one battle for the lead and another battle for third, because to claw back 9.5 seconds and then work past 2 cars is a lot for Schneider to do.
It would be, I mean, with the time remaining 25 minutes, almost an impossibility. The only thing that, of course, you've got to factor in is a full course yellow. Now, while nobody should benefit, lose or gain in that context, that's the one hope that you might have to get the field sort of restart and hope that you can make a bit of progress once the track would go green. But in reality, it would be a forlorn hope.
So the pit window now closed. Everybody should have been in to make the mandatory driver change, and the lead gap has crept up just. Alvaro Parent was 1.9. He's now 2.027 seconds ahead of René Rast there in number 28. Very much part of the Audi family, having excelled behind the wheel of the prototype Audis in international sports car racing in recent years. But René, former Porsche champion, both in this country and in the Super Cup, former Volkswagen Polo 1 mate champion, and he is the man in the Audi with the green wings and the green mirrors, hustling on behind Alvaro Parent, and he's a little bit quicker in the first sector. And look, Parent has got a Mercedes back marker that he needs to negotiate. So now René Rast unleashed. He turns his way down the hill, closing on the McLaren. There's Marco Seefried, who is in 5th place. He's chasing after Christopher Mies, but he's got behind him Maxi Buch.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no release here whatsoever. Maximilian Buch, who's trying to make up for a really disappointing Saturday afternoon here at Nurburgring, and closing on the Ferrari coming through turn 12. That looked like the Mercedes had better balance, better speed off turn 12 than we're seeing from the Ferrari. Of course, the Ferrari offsets that with having slightly higher top speed, so he's able to relax a little bit. No challenge from Maximilian Buch in breaking into the chicane.
Now the race leaders have just gone over the line and the gap is down again to 1.9 seconds. There is Christopher Mies as through the traffic goes Alvaro Parent, 23 minutes and change on the clock. McLaren leads in the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup here at the Nurburgring, but it's being chased by Audi. And then there's the fight for third and fourth places. Schneider only 6/10 ahead of Mies. Mercedes versus Audi. Then it's Ferrari versus Mercedes. 4/10 between Marco Seefried and Maximilian Buch, who closes right up under braking at turn 1.
But the squirt off the corner gives the Ferrari that little bit of breathing space. So the Ferrari again, just you can see the gap as the cars are accelerating and braking, it ebbs and flows. So the Mercedes catches up as they go through the tighter apex in turn 3. Then the gap begins to spread again as they come through 4. You can use a lot of it outside of the racetrack to make up position, make up time, and then hard on the brakes into this tight, and a variety of different lines used going through turns 4A as we go back to this battle further ahead.
Working their way then through the S. There, Marco Seefried under attack from Maximilian Buch. And then behind, you've got Laurens Vanthoor in 7th place, and he should be part of that mix before long.
But Christopher Mies, less than half a second or so behind. There you can see, coming on to the back straight, Christopher Mies behind the Mercedes. And that's in fact the Mercedes and Ferrari just ahead. The gap between the Mercedes and the Audi is... Oh, I can't look, that's it on the screen. It's the Ferrari and the yes, there it is.
At the start of the lap, Seefried to Buch was 4/10 of a second. Now there, René Rast, he has spent most of the lap trying to get past that pesky Mercedes. He will do so, I think, on the inside at turn 1, but the lead gap is 1.6 seconds. It's still coming down. There, 3rd and 4th over the line. Schneider to Mies has gone up a bit, 7/10 of a second. 5th and 6th is up to half a second. Seefried fending off Buch, and then Vanthoor behind. That lap was a 28.2. He is chipping away as best he can to get into the mix as well. So the leading 7 in covered by what, 18, 19 seconds. They in turn 10 seconds up the road against Maxime Martin, 8th for BMW. So it's out of the leading 7 where it's all going to happen.
Well, Christopher Mies sliding the Audi around the exit of turn 2, trying to close up as we look down back to the Mercedes. So it's this battle that for 3rd and 4th place as we go back to 5th place for the Ferrari. Then Maximilian Buch pushing all the way around, and Maximilian Buch really a master of Mercedes, but he's got the old master battling for 3rd place, Bernd Schneider, holding Christopher Mies, the man who was, I thought, outstanding in Saturday's qualifying race.
To the chicane comes Alvaro Parent, there, the race leader. He lost out in sector 1. He's lost out in sector 2. René Rast pushing. He's getting closer all the time, and we have still got just over 20 minutes of the race to go as he works his way through turn 17. Yesterday's race was about a McLaren trying to catch an Audi. Today it's the other way round. Audi catching McLaren, and the gap is down 1.4 seconds now. Rast versus Parent. There's not much to choose between them. They are both star drivers.
I think that half second was the effect of the overtake that the lead Mercedes had to make, then 2nd place Audi had to make, and Audi got the better of that situation. So they got the gap down to just under that 1.5 second psychological gap. And you got then Schneider in 3rd place, Christopher Mies slightly further behind by just under a second.
Through the Mercedes arena they turn. Best Mercedes still 3rd, and there it is, Bernd Schneider. 9/10 ahead now of Christopher Mies. That gap has just widened a little for the last 2 laps. They turn their way up towards turn 4. There you've got the Marco Seefried versus Maximilian Buch battle. That's 5th and 6th. And in the background, as very wide goes Seefried, is the charging and catching Laurens Vanthoor. Seefried back on the road, but Buch all over him as they drop down towards the hairpin.
Yeah, that was a mistake from the Ferrari coming out of turn 4 round wide, kicked up the dirt on the outside, then get Maximilian Buch all the opportunism that he needed to get closer to the rear of the Ferrari, and almost got a dive down the inside. The Ferrari recovered sufficiently, but that was a close call.
So Seefried does hang on, but for how much longer? Maximilian Buch really applying the pressure now. Really turning the screw as they work their way towards the chicane. Is he close enough to make a dive up the inside? Not quite. He needs to try and force another error out of Seefried. And behind them, look how is Vanthoor getting on. In sector 1, quicker. In sector 2, fractionally slower by 6,000. But Buch again pulls to the inside at turn 17. Seefried, elbows out, defends.
Yeah, the thing, the Ferrari has just got more straight line performance than the Mercedes has. Maximilian Buch is using everything that he's got in the Mercedes, but he's just being left fraction by fraction. And you can see even the Ferrari doesn't have to go defensive coming down the main straight. The Mercedes has fallen back 5 or so car lengths in the space of the length of the pit straight.
So there, turning out of turn 1, Marco Seefried 5th in the Ferrari, Mercedes 6th, Maximilian Buch behind him. man that won last year's Sprint Championship title, and he did that in a Bentley. Now back with Mercedes in the new car for this year, the new Mercedes chasing the new 488 Ferrari, and of course you've got the new BMWs in the race as well, but at the moment the best of those only in 8th place. It's McLaren leading the way by a second and a half. It is coming down, but only by fractions per lap.
Well, it was just under 1.496 and now 1.564. I mean, it's just minute differences overall in the lap time, and the last lap René Rast was at less than a tenth of a second slower than Alvaro Brent. So I mean, it's so nip and tuck between the lead two cars. You're going to get that little ebb and flow every lap between the drivers, and it sometimes is an overtake car.
Now the Silver Cup leader there going through, which is the Lamborghini. Luca Stolz leading the Silver Cup at the moment from Marcus Pommer, and the Grasser Racing team looking for 2 out of 2. Ignore that one, that's number 16, which is in 10th place overall. 19 is the second of the Lamborghinis, which is at the back of the queue. That's your Silver Cup leader coming up towards the chicane now.
And that's a great drive, because that number 16 started at the very back of the field because of issues at the start of the sprint race, or the qualifying race on Saturday, so they've done well to get through the traffic.
So there, through turn 17, Luca Stolz in the car that he has, for this second stint of the race, taken over from Michele Beretta. Won the Silver Cup yesterday despite being tapped into a spin late race. Over the timing line comes 23, which is Alex Buncombe in the Nissan, and a dive up the inside there. Look, heading down towards turn 1, and that sorts out number 3 Audi. So Jimenez drops back. Felix Rosenqvist, last year's European Formula 3 champion, up the inside into 11th place.
Good little racer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good little racer, and I mean, I'd love to see him more in some of the endurance rounds, not just in the sprint rounds, but he and Tristan Vautier, potentially a race-winning package. Not necessarily here this weekend. They didn't get the qualifying grid positions, but they have got good pace in general.
Yeah, Rosenqvist double Macau Grand Prix winner in Formula 3. You've got to be good to win there once, over the line twice. Alex Buncombe in the, dare one say, venerable Nissan. Not suited at all to this circuit. Doesn't like the start-stop chicane. Doesn't like that hairpin. Much prefers the fast-flowing nature of the full Grand Prix circuit here.
They can't wait to get to Spa-Francorchamps, the next round of the Endurance Championship.
There are lots of good reasons to go to Spa. So up towards the completion of lap 29 have just come the race leaders with the gap 1.4 seconds. Schneider is 10 seconds back. Mies, though, is dropping away from Schneider.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that Christopher Mies, he's given everything that the Audi has got to give. He might think that, you know, I'm racing the most experienced driver in the field, a winner of innumerable races for Mercedes-Benz at the Nurburgring. So I'm going to have to rethink it. And by dropping back momentarily and then making another charge, getting your momentum back up. But he's got to be careful, because the Ferrari is now just 4.5 seconds behind. He can't afford to be too comfortable. He's got to remember that that 5th place Ferrari has got good pace on this circuit where it's important, and that's in the straight parts of the circuit.
Marco Seefried still trying to keep at bay Maximilian Buch. We've now got a couple of cars being given drive-through penalties. 89, Jean-Philippe Belloc is one for speeding in the pit lane, and 19, Luca Stolz is another for exceeding track limits in the chicane. So Stolz, the Silver Cup leader, is going to get a drive-through, and that could well lose him the category lead, as Marco Seefried is in danger of losing his 5th place. Maximilian Buch right there behind him.
Yeah, he looked very threatening coming through turn 11, tried to get up along and the inside into turn 12, didn't have quite the track position, had to back out of it. But nevertheless, the pace of the Mercedes right now would appear to be greater than that of the Ferrari. It's just, where can I make the pass? Coming up into turn 17, he's thinking about it, but again, it's the squirt, the acceleration off the line that the Ferrari enjoys. Drive-through penalty.
Yeah, for the Mercedes, as I mentioned, that's for Jean-Philippe Belloc, and there's confirmation of the Stolz track limit drive-through. Leaders through, lead gap 1.3 seconds, as there, Seefried, Buch and Vanthor now, 5th, 6th, 7th. It's a 3-way fight, because much as Buch is trying to get past Seefried, Laurens Vanthor is almost on the back of him.
Yes, again, he's going to find himself trapped in the same net that Maximilian Buch is, that the Ferrari is able to defend very comfortably. He's not having to make any aggressive blocking moves on the quick parts of the racetrack. Laurens Vanthor has been lapping quicker than these two cars over the last 4 or 5 laps to draw himself up to the tail of the Mercedes. And all that he can hope for is that they might catch up to some of the cars at the tail of the field, and that will wrong foot the Ferrari or the Mercedes. But, you know, I don't think Seefried or Buch are going to make too many errors with just 13 3/4 minutes of the race to go.
So this fight, Ferrari, Mercedes, Audi, 5th, 6th and 7th.
But the gap at the front coming down, but this lap about further, 1/10 of a second. Rennie Rast got his head down, picked up literally a 1/10 of a second on the last lap, 1.3 seconds as they come across the line at the end of lap 30.
So the cars then up towards the chicane. Siegfried just able to defend from Maximilian Buch as they work their way through, but now Buch having to really focus on defending from Vanthoor as much as attack the Ferrari.
Indeed, I mean, Buch was actually quicker into the chicane, the Ferrari losing a little bit somewhere out of turn 12, and that was Lawrence Vanthoor looking again to see where two drivers are battling. They forget about somebody behind who actually could potentially get past both of them on an out-and-out lap time pace, but not necessarily on the pace here. You can see the balance of performance is so equal between all these cars in a straight line that where one might have an advantage, the other marginally disadvantaged. You couldn't really get it any easier, any closer in terms of the balance of performance, which is really what's dominating GT3 racing around the world and making for exciting and not predictable racing.
Absolutely, because we had 4 different winners across the first 4 races, taking the qualifying and main race in that number. So as the cars work their way through turn 1, we've got just over 12 minutes of the race to go. Number 25, Audi, Edward Sandstrom at the wheel. That car running at the moment in 13th place. Santalot car turning its way out of turn 4.
Yeah, I saw Edward Sandstrom last night, and he just put his hands on his head and said, look, we were useless, we couldn't do anything, but clearly today things have come slightly more favourably to that team. As we go back to the battle further through the field with the Lamborghini and chased by the Mercedes.
Yeah, 16, which is then in 10th place now.
Stefan Rosina
at the wheel of it, trying to fend off Rosenqvist and Jimenez. And then next in the queue is the Santalot car of Edward Sandstrom that we've just been talking about, the blue and white Audi that was at the back of the grid yesterday because they ran the wrong driver in the wrong qualifying session. You nominate who's going to do Q1 and Q2, and they did it the other way around without telling anybody, so they lost all the lap time and started at the back of the grid. As now Rosenqvist tries to come up alongside. There is number 11 Ferrari going through the shot, which is the leading Pro-Am car in the race. Giacomo Piccini at the wheel of it. Up towards the Ad Van Bergen it goes, but some great battles raging on around the lap. For Ferrari in 25th spot, a comfortable class leader at the moment, up towards the chicane with 11 minutes of the race remaining.
So the gap at the front now down to just over 1/10 of a second. So 1.1 seconds. Rennie Rast yet again taking 0.3 of a second out of the lead of Alvaro Parent on the end of lap 32. So this is a real race with the 10 minutes or so remaining. And further back, Christopher Mies 1.6 seconds behind third place Bernd Schneider, who's really sort of running pretty much on his own. And the battle for 5th and 6th place still undecided, and it may well be until the flag comes out.
Remember I said that number 19 Lamborghini of Lucas Stoltz had a drive-through for track limits at the chicane. Well, number 16, the sister car, has got exactly the same penalty for exactly the same offence. So Stefan Rosina is having to go down the pit lane as the leaders go through, and the gap is 1.6 seconds now. So it just creeps up a little bit more. That time, Parent gaps Rast fractionally as he blasts out of turn 1 with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, found half a second advantage over the second place Audi. I mean, whether that was a small error on the part of Rennie Rast, there was no other cars around that we can see that may have contributed to it, but that shows how hard these drivers are pushing. There is nothing left. They're absolutely on the limit.
The race-leading car is under investigation. The start of car 58 under investigation after the race. Now, that 50 minutes and change into the race now comes up on the timing screen. But Rob Bell's start, for he was the man behind the wheel, is going to be investigated after the race.
Not what you want to hear.
Absolutely.
Not what you want to hear. Considering they were on the front row, they were second place finishing the qualifying race, and that is disappointment.
There's a drive-through penalty as well for number 4, Dries Vanthoor. Remember, he lost days, it felt, in the pit lane with that problem with the left rear corner. There was a pit stop infringement. So number 4, 21st place, is going to fall even further down the order because Vanthoor Minor is going to have to serve a drive-through penalty.
Now, we saw the start and we saw a rerun of the start. It's very difficult for us to tell from the camera position in the commentary booth whether there was a advantage to the McLaren, but clearly the McLaren got the lead at the beginning of the race, and that's maybe the reason that it is investigated, but only after the race. So we'll go to Parc Fermé. We can ask Rob Bell, are you aware? Was there something you felt you did? that you would want to have to defend, he'll say, I'm innocent, I'm innocent, I'm innocent.
Well, let's have a look at the starts. Have a look at this, John, see what you think.
Well, waiting for the lights. You can't see don't see the lights going out. Well, I can't see anything there from this angle, other than he went from left to right and made a block on end to eat, but I can't see that would be the issue. It would be, did he anticipate the lights going out rather than waiting for the lights to go out? We know that from the past that has happened. We've seen drivers anticipate it and get a real flyer, and maybe that's what's going to be looked at to see whether Rob Bell was using that opportunity to gain that little bit more momentum and therefore more speed at the point when the lights went green.
I mean, if it was an obvious foul, it would have come up there and then, pretty much, not 50 minutes into the race, wouldn't it?
It's something that they look at. I mean, it didn't look to be anything wrong from my perspective here in the commentary booth, but only by timing and scoring, and those who are judging these things, they can sit and look at it and make their decisions. But it's interesting, the decision will not be made until after the race, at which point all they can do is, if there is any penalty to be administered, it would be a time penalty added on to that of the lead car. But let's hope and see that there isn't any issue, because it always spoils a race when a decision is made post the race.
Absolutely so. And Alvaro Parent leads the way by 1.9 seconds. You also wonder in situations like this whether the rival teams have said, look, can you have a look at that, because we think that was a block. That might be why it's now come to light. It might be that the officials have been looking at it and want to look further post-race. Either way, on track, McLaren leads Audi, Mercedes third, Audi fourth, Ferrari fifth, Mercedes sixth, Audi seventh. In 8th place, BMW, 9th is BMW, and in 10th, Mercedes, as the cars now, with less than 7 minutes to go, come out of turn 1, with still Marco Seefried defending from Maximilian Buch.
What's happening at the front? Because the gap's gone from 1.1 seconds up to almost 2 seconds. Rennie Rast has lost a bunch of time somewhere, and we haven't been able to pick that up. So the gap first to second suddenly has gone from a very tenuous 1.1 seconds to a slightly more comfortable. There is the second place Audi, and the gap, you can see, has stretched. Again, we don't think there was any traffic coming into view. Was it just an error maybe on the part of Rennie Rast, or was it just pure inspiration? But doesn't look like it was inspiration from Alvaro Parent. Maybe just a small error under braking from the second place chasing Audi.
So through the chicane, 6 minutes on the clock. Is it going to be a McLaren win on the track? Possibly. Post-race, ... question mark, because it's going to have the start investigated, and it'll be down to the stewards who will look at the evidence. There are 3 on the panel, and they will decide whether there was a case to answer. Now, number 16, Lamborghini, after its drive-through, back on track. Stefano Rossina trying to keep Clement Schmidt at bay in the Mercedes there, and then Giacomo Piccini in the quick Ferrari. So this is 23rd, 24th and 26th places as they work their way down towards the right-hand hairpin. The sister Lamborghini, by the way, has still not taken its drive-through penalty for track limit abuse. So although Lukas Stoltz is leading the Silver Cup, he may not win it if he doesn't take the drive-through.
No, and taking a drive-through is very important. You can take it on the final lap. We know Michael Schumacher did that many years ago in a Grand Prix at Silverstone. Just more importantly, right now, the gap between first and second is further extended to over 2 seconds, 2.1 seconds. So it looks like Alvaro Parent has done sufficient with 5 minutes of the race remaining, other than the unforeseen.
And as the cars then come into the chicane with 5 minutes to go, little error being made by the Lamborghini there, bouncing over the curb. So there, Rossina comes under attack. Clement Schmidt tries to make a move. There's lots of lights flashing, but this is a proper battle for position. It's not flashing your lights at a back marker. So nose to tail they run then as they work their way up towards the end of the lap. Out of the draft pulls Clement Schmidt in the Mercedes. He goes to the inside. Absolutely level as they go down towards turn 1. This is Schmidt's chance. They're only fighting for 23rd, but it's as intense a battle as you'll find anywhere. The Mercedes goes through. Clement Schmidt up the inside, deep into the corner. Can Rossina come back in? The answer is no. The Slovakian driver has to slot back in behind him as they work their way now through turn 2 and trying to join the party as Schmidt goes wide over the curb. Is the Ferrari of Giacomo Piccini behind them. Lap number 38 has just been started by the race leaders, and that gap is up to 2.3 seconds now between Parent and Rast. So gradually the McLaren sorting out the opposition. Down towards turn 1, this is the fight still for 5th and 6th and 7th, and Seefried actually now has got away just a little from Buch, who is rather more concerned about Laurens Vanthoor behind it, because the number 1 Audi closing up all the while. Can Vanthoor break into the top 6? Been a difficult weekend for the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT entry for Laurens Vanthoor and Frederik Vervisch. A spin, and then a recovery, and then a puncture yesterday. And it's just not been easy to get through the traffic on this configuration of circuit today either. Lavish and Van Thor, winners of the equivalent race at Misano, going back to the start of the year, but it looks as though 7th, maybe 6th is going to be the result here. But as Van Thor goes wide through the hairpin, there's no opportunity to get back onto the tail into the next left-right sequence to challenge Maximilian Buch as the clock ticks on down. 3 minutes and counting now. So the cars accelerating their way in this fight, 5th, 6th and 7th, once more up towards the chicane. The race-leading gap continues to extend. René Rast perhaps now thinking he's going to have to settle for 2nd place. The leader has gone through onto lap number 39 with just under 3 minutes to go, and the gap 2.3, Alvaro Parent to René Rast there. Siegfried, Buch, and behind Van Thor. Down to turn 17 they come, through the right-hander once again, back onto the power, and the Ferrari is now edging away. And Ben Schneider, who, remember, when the pit stops were all done, was only something like 0.4 of a second ahead of Christopher Mies. He is now 2.8 seconds ahead of Christopher Mies in number 33 Audi. So Ben Schneider getting on with the job, good and proper, good for podium finishes there. Van Thor gets right onto the back of Buch, diving down to turn 1, closes right up under braking, but by the time he got there, it was too late to think about making a move. So he's still mired in 7th place, but trying to force a mistake out of Buch, and because Maximilian Buch in the Mercedes is defending, taking the slower lines, so Marco Siegfried is just creeping away now, 0.7 of a second to the good up the road in the 5th placed green Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, the new 488. 2 minutes to go, and a flying lap is just under 1.5 minutes. Well, the battered back marker Mercedes coming up towards us as the field then turns into the S, turns 11 and 12, then the fast run, speed building all the time, downhill through that right kink at the Ad Van Bogen, and then onto the chicane. It can be an opportunity to pass if you're really brave, but you've got to get a good run through this whole section of circuit. Laurens Van Thor will have his foot nailed to the boards, but he's not close enough as they get to the braking area. So the leaders have gone through. There is now less than a lap time left in the race, but they should just squeeze one more out of this. The gap 1.9 between the top two. 8.6 seconds back in 3rd is Ben Schneider. So it's still McLaren, from Audi, from Mercedes in the top 3. 3 different brands being represented. In 4th place, Christopher Mies for Audi. 5th for Ferrari. They're the green car. It is Marco Siegfried, Mercedes 6th, Buch 7th, Audi, Van Thor, and then BMW 8th and 9th. Maxime Martin ahead of Philippe Eng. Turning their way out of the Mercedes arena will go this 5th place train. Marco Siegfried in the car that he took over from Norbert Siedler. It was, early in the race, the car that had done the fastest lap. Now, that honour is to an Audi, and perhaps not the one you might anticipate. It's in 25th place, and Franck Pereira, yet again working his magic. He's done the fastest lap of the race, trying to drag that car of Marlon Stockinger back up the order. Out of the hairpin goes 5th, 6th, 7th, and we've got now just over 20 seconds of the race to go. The race leaders working their way up towards the chicane. They're just, I think, going to squeeze one more lap out of this, but it's going to be close as Alvaro Parent then accelerates up towards turn 17. 10 seconds on the clock as he comes up towards the exit of the final corner. He's going to complete lap number 40. It's going to be very touch and go this. The checkered flag is not needed because he squeezes through just with about 2 seconds to spare. So one more lap to go. 1.8 seconds is the margin. And when Alvaro Parent crossed the line, he had done 59 minutes, 58.041 seconds of racing. So very close, but he's got one more lap to go. Let's hope for him there's no drama on this final lap of the race. René Rast there has thrown everything at it possible in this stint, but he has just never quite been able to get onto the tail of the McLaren. Yesterday, it was McLaren chasing Audi all the way in the second stint, other way around today, but McLaren looks like it is going to triumph, and this would be the first Sprint Cup win of the season. 2 endurance wins, one a week ago at Paul Ricard, one at Monza at the start of the season, and Rob Bell is the common factor in all of that. Alvaro Parent only doing the sprint races with Rob doing the endurance events with Com Ledegaard and Shane van Gisbergen. Com Ledegaard retiring from this race in the car that he shares with the Brit Martin Plowman early on, sadly. And so, Rob Bell started, Alvaro Parent will finish, but the start under investigation for that car. So we'll have to wait and see post-race what, if anything, is going to be done to affect the story. It may not be over when the checkered flag flies, and that checkered flag is about to be displayed. Honours in the main race at the Nurburgring will go to McLaren, to Alvaro Parent and Rob Bell. The McLaren charges across the line to win. Audi second, 2 seconds behind René Rast and Will Stevens, the drivers, and third should be the best of the Mercedes. Ben Schneider and Jules Szymkowiak will bring the car home, as there Rob Bell in the overalls congratulates the team. And for second place, Will Stevens and René Rast for WRT. Dries Vanthoor making his way out of the garage, his car in the end a long way down the order indeed in the pit lane now, because it was brought in for a penalty and it stayed there. 34th, it will be classified, but huge frustration for that car as the WRT team has had a mixed weekend. But McLaren taking a Sprint Cup win a week after, just over a week after, an Endurance Cup win. 6 hours of racing at Paul Ricard, and it was a win there. 1 hour of racing at the Nürburgring, and a victory there as well. And good to see so many of the truck racing fans in the grandstands applauding the winners. I think they all have enjoyed their, in many cases, first taste of GT racing. And with such a field, and with battles all the way through the field, you can't help but be impressed by it. It is a great spectacle, and they've witnessed a fascinating race as well that goes McLaren's way. There, the Garage 59 entry, and a win for Alvaro Parent and Rob Bell, with taking second place René Rast and Will Stevens, again one better than yesterday, and third Ben Schneider and Jules Szymkowiak, who is making quite a name for himself as a GT driver. He never really sparkled 2 years back in Formula 3 for the Van Amersfoort team, Jules Szymkowiak, but he's getting on with the job in GT terms, and having had a win in the qualifying race at Brands Hatch, third here in the main race, on the back of second in the main race at Brands 2 months now ago. So Ben Schneider and Jules Szymkowiak started 8th, finishing 3rd. Good progress being made as into the pit lane comes Alvaro Parent. We have dispatched John Watson down to Parc Ferme, and he will no doubt interrogate Rob Bell about that start. And the stewards will collect all the evidence, and whether they're looking at a jump or whether they're looking at the block, well, we'll find out post-race. The provisional result after 41 drama-filled laps: a win for Rob Bell and Alvaro Parent ahead of Will Stevens and René Rast. Jules Szymkowiak and Ben Schneider third ahead of Enzo Eden, Christopher Mies, Norbert Siedler and Marco Seefried take fifth, and then Dominic Baumann and Maxi Buch sixth ahead of Frederic Vervisch and Laurens Vanthoor. 8th and 9th for BMW, Steph Dusseldorf and Maxime Martin ahead of Alexander Sims and Philippe Eng. Mercedes 10th with Felix Rosenqvist and Tristan Vautier bringing the car home to round out the top 10. Nissan taking 14th, the Takaboshi Buncombe car. Ferrari 16th, Companc and Giammaria. And scrolling all the way through the order, some great battles. We've had race long and some good recovery drives. Frank Stippler and Philippe Salaquada, for example, 20th from near the back of the grid. And also, inevitably, some hard luck stories. The Valsecchi Rossina car dropping down after its drive-through penalty. And from 27th and downwards, you've got cars that had some dramas during the course of the race. The Porsche making it home in 31st, the Team Works car of Didi Gonzalez and double German champion Sebastian Asch, son of Roland Asch, another very successful touring car racer here. But a bad day at the office for Bentley. 32nd for Soucek and Soulé, and the first retirement really was the Abril and Kane car, because the Lamborghini of Nicolas Pola and Mirko Bortolotti barely got around the first lap before drama intervened there. So the cars will make their way down to Parc Ferme, and we'll have a chance to hear from the winners, because Alvaro Parent and Rob Bell are with John Watson.
Rob Bell, congratulations. Not only have you won 2 endurance events, now finally Garage 59 have won the sprint.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great feeling. The team done a great job. Changed the car a little bit overnight, and actually I think the rain helped us. A little bit of rain beforehand, a little bit of uncertainty, and it cleaned the track up, and the car was great in the race.
Now, we got a message on our screen saying your start's being investigated. Tell us what it's all about.
I'm not too sure, but what I do know is it was one of the best starts I've ever done. I knew how important it was in the first corner because it was still damp, and it was one of those ones where it was just in the right rev range, it went green, and I just got a jump. It was fantastic. So I don't know, do you get penalised for a great start? I hope not.
Alvaro, you took over the car. You're always under pressure from the 28 Audi, but then you managed to put out a bit of a gap at the end.
Yeah, we saved these new tires for this stint. Pushed hard at the beginning, managed to pull away a little bit. Then as they had fresh tires, they pulled in a little bit, and then we just controlled the gap. But very happy with the race. Mega start from Rob. Congratulations to the team, and fantastic result. We're on the top step.
And maximum points. Well done, guys.
Thank you.
So, two happy McLaren drivers. Let's hope they stay happy, because if that start is being investigated and it has a negative outcome for Rob Bell, then it will be a different story altogether. But Rob says he made a great start, his best, one of his best. Let's hope that the race officials agree with that analysis when they have a look at all of the available data in a little while. As the drivers then for second place, René Rast and Will Stevens, will make their way shortly from Parc Fermé to the podium. Hopefully not, though, before they've had a word with John, because a great weekend, a third and a second for Rast and Stevens.
René, Will Stevens did a great job giving you the car at that time in the lead.
Yeah, he did a great job. It was for sure not an easy start of the race. It was a bit tricky with the wet conditions, but he did an awesome job. Gave me the car in second place with a good pit stop, better than yesterday. I tried to push a bit Alvaro, but he was just too quick. I couldn't really get close to him, so this was a maximum today. But yeah, happy with the second place.
Well, you got it down to just about a second, and then it seemed to stretch back up to but just under 2 seconds by the time the flag fell.
Yeah, I pushed a bit hard in the beginning, but then maybe I used the tires a bit too much, and then in the end I couldn't go any quicker. So yeah, it was just a tire management game today. I pushed a bit too much at the beginning, but in the end, yeah, I think we maximized our performance today.
Good to see you again. Well done, René.
Thanks.
And Will Stevens, the second driver of that car, there he is, having done the first stint. René Rast bringing it home, and in the end, just 2 seconds adrift. Try as they might, just wasn't going to be their day. But the McLaren taking a Sprint Cup win, and to make it 3 different brands within the top 3, Mercedes from 8th on the grid as well, coming home for third spot. No doubt to the delight of the Mercedes fans in the Mercedes arena, with Ben Schneider and Jules Kowiak taking third place, and they are both with John.
Bernd, you brought the car home in third place. You told us how it was going to be a bit of a battle, but a great drive.
Yeah, absolutely. The car was awesome. Thank you to HTP. They made it a really good setup for the race. In qualifying, I was struggling, and qualifying Jules would be much better. But yeah, from coming from 26 and yesterday 8th, today 3rd, I think this was the maximum.
Jules, you did a great job in the opening stint. How difficult was it? Because it looked like it was just nuts out there.
It was nuts. It was quite busy, and I was having a lot of fun. It had to be a bit smart driving to find a gap here and there, because some drivers were making small mistakes, but I was just having fun out there. It was tricky, but we made it happen. Really thanks to HTP again for giving the great car, because we really worked out the setup well, and it was driving really awesome.
Well, youth and experience got you third place. Well done.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. See you, Spa.
An all-action main race here at the Nurburgring in the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup, and that now, if you take both sprint and endurance combined, gives Rob Bell the championship lead over Maximilian Buch and Dominic Baumann. Come Ledegaard third with Shane van Gisbergen, who we only see in the endurance races. Laurent Van Thor, Frederic Lavige come next, ahead of Alvaro Parent. Then Maxime Soulet and Andy Soucek. Christopher Mies and Enzo Ede are next in the point standing. So Rob Bell leading the overall Blancpain GT Series when you take both the sprint and the endurance races. He's had 2 endurance wins and 1 Sprint Cup victory as well in the all-important main race, with more points on offer, and that is standing him in very good stead. Ben Schneider, Jules Kowiak and Jasmin Jafar all tied on 47 points ahead of Philippe Eng, Alexander Sims. Then it's Will Stevens and Wolfgang Reif ahead of Dries Van Thor, Alessandro Pierguidi, Hasan Athoris and Michele Rugolo, Ferrari pedallers that we see in the Endurance Cup. And René Rast now getting himself to 17th after a good haul of points this weekend, with a third and a second across the qualifying and main race. Mitsunori Takaboshi and Alex Buncombe, along with Lucas Ordoniev, next in the championship standings. Christopher Haase and Mike Parisi are next, ahead of Marlon Stockinger, Franck Pereira. Jeroen Bleekemolen, not here this weekend, he's away racing in America, but he's somebody else that has some decent results and decent pace for sure in the endurance as well as sprint races thus far this season. And proof of how many people we've had in the 2 elements of the championship and how many point scorers is because the list just keeps on going. Jan Magnussen, for example, who was a podium finisher a week ago in the endurance race at Paul Ricard, sitting there with 19 points to his name, the same as Felipe Albuquerque and Rodrigo Baptista after their good result a week ago. And of course, you also have from Endurance Cup, taking some good overall positions, the likes of Matt Griffin and Duncan Cameron and Davide Rizzo creeping into the combined points as well. In front of a huge German crowd here at the Nurburgring, the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup main race has the podium to get underway shortly in the fan village in the paddock. And so the drivers will make their way out of Parc Fermé and then towards the podium itself, as we will have, of course, the classes as well as the teams, and up to the podium come some delighted teams, delighted drivers after what has been a very tough hour indeed. So for the Am Cup, Pro-Am Cup, the Silver Cup, and overall we have the drivers making their way through the different podium ceremonies at the end of the main race here at the Nurburgring.
Das ist die Pit-Stop Challenge, das ist das Podium.
So after 41 laps, battles right the way through the field. The Alvaro Parent, Rob Bell, McLaren coming home with this 2-second advantage, but the story is still set to rumble on in the stewards' room. We've had the WRT engineers celebrating their best pit stop times, because there's the private battle between the crews to see who can get the most Euros. And the first of the podium ceremonies sorts out who does the best 3 pit stops. WRT may not have won on the track, but in the pit stops, that is where victory has gone the Belgian team's way. So Santeloc and WRT represented on the first of the podiums that we have here at the Nürburgring. And this monster crowd that always packs out the German Truck Grand Prix, having to brace itself against the elements. It's, despite being the first weekend in July, been a very chilly weekend. Rain about 2 hours ago, making the circuit a little bit treacherous for the first couple of laps for the GT race, and that perhaps helping 1 or 2 teams, as Rob Bell was suggesting. A bit of uncertainty might have just headed in his favour, but as now we get the Silver Cup drivers for the podium. A win in the Silver Cup this weekend for Lukas Stolz and Michele Beretta. A drive-through penalty was given to them. It was then cancelled subsequently. So a Silver Cup win for Lukas Stolz and Michele Beretta. And then the overall top 3 drivers. For 3rd place, a man who has been on a podium at the Nürburgring many, many times. This year's 24-hour race winner indeed, Ben Schneider. And young gun George Kowiak with him for 3rd place in the HTP Mercedes. For 2nd place for Audi, for the Belgian Audi Club, Team WRT, René Rast and Will Stevens. But the top step of the podium will go the way of Garage 59 and of the McLaren 650S. The Portuguese driver, Alvaro Parent, the British driver, Rob Bell, winners at the Nürburgring. Garage 59 represented on the podium for the winning team, but although the work was done to engineer the car and to cycle it through the pit stops, the real hard work was done behind the wheel itself. And Rob Bell and Alvaro Parent congratulate the defeated rivals and stand on the top step of the podium, winners of the main race here at the Nürburgring. Rob Bell, Alvaro Parent win at the Nurburgring for Garage 59 and McLaren in the third round of the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup. It has been yet another tremendous race. The celebration's about to begin on the podium. For here, though, from John Watson and David Addison. Bye-bye.